I'll go to the studio. Hello, my friends. La da 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 da. Do 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 do. I'm gonna put some music on for you while I try to get this technical mess figured out. Yay! We got one concurrent viewer. All right, let's give this a try. In an abandoned house in someone's hometown, there was still a frame hanging on the wall. You can hear the cries, you can hear it echo. You can hear the screams stripping off the wall. You can call it a breakdown, you can call it whatever you will. There will be no where, there will be no when. Get up on that train now, get up on that train. Get up on that train now. In an abandoned house in someone's hometown, there is still a frame hanging on the wall. You can hear the cries,
I'll be back in a little bit.
Echo. You can hear the screams stripping off the wall. You can call it a breakdown. You can call it whatever you will. There will be no where, there will be no when. Get up on that train now. Get up on that train. Get up on that train now. We like you best when you like this. You were born, now we adore all your antics and what's more. I get a kick out of being like this, but it's not gonna happen like that again. No, it's not gonna happen like that. Greasy eyes, quite sometimes. Greasy eyes, greasy eyes. No, it's not like that, but you were wishing it was. Greasy eyes, it's on my life. Greasy eyes, greasy eyes. Can't take a cactus, it takes us a antics and what's more. I get a kick out of being like this, but it's not gonna happen like that again. No, it's not gonna happen like that. Crazy eyes, quite some time, crazy eyes, crazy eyes. No, it's not like that, but you were wishing it was. Crazy eyes, oh my life, crazy eyes, crazy eyes. Kissing a cactus, it takes lots of practice, and I've had practice. Now say what you want, but it's stupid to think or to even wonder. Why is it sticking all over your lips if you're the expert? I know you got you're the guy that's so nice, so now I'll turn to mine. Rock and roll, baby, there goes my rock and roll, baby, and I will scream at the top of my lungs, I love you, baby. Wow, the inside that we both unwind, you see the big old moon up there that shines, the time the wings at the top of the sky, 'cause we both know fail. Come along and dance with me into the mouth of apathy. We can play and hide things there, away from those who laugh and judge and stare. Here we are for another day. Stretch out and extend our stay. You're getting hungry like I knew you would. The mouth around you closes, appetites are good. Because jobs are licking wounds. Can't remember what you're using for. So you're missing more and more and more. We've been done before that we'll die. Well, we need you and flowers in my hair. I'd only go to New York if the Stooges were there. I don't care if it's raining, I don't care if it's cold, I gotta hope it's sturdy. Going on, I'm told I'm going there. No fun! Na 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 na. You know it don't impress me how you say you tried while you were hitchhiking to California. Your revolution died. I don't care if it's raining, I don't care if it's cold, I gotta hope it's dirty. Going on, I'm told. I'm going to Detroit, and I'm going to Detroit, and I'm going to Detroit, and I'm going, yeah! Searching for that special someone. I know that you are out there. I've been waiting oh so long. You can't avoid me. It was meant to be, and I've been aching for this chance to save our romance. The problem is that we have not yet met face to face. So if you want to find me, I'll be what's that love to do nothing, nothing to lose, nothing to lose. I just think a little message in about the way I'll be when I'm in your skin. All this time it has kept me alive, and I'm totally spent and I'm not quite right. So I will idealize this thing that's going on and ain't got life. And I'll direct my focus on you through this endless night. On you. You may never hear this song, but I can assure you it was written for you, specially crafted, loud, fantastic, sharp and to a point, and it might seem drastic. Harm will come along and Harm will sing this song. Harm inside my head till I'm good and gone, leave you bleeding on the ground to the wonderful sound of me and my retro style bicycle. Nothing to lose, nothing to lose. Searching for that special someone. I know that you've been out there. I've been waiting oh so long. You can't avoid me. It was meant to be, and I've been aching for this chance to see our romance. The problem is that we have not yet met face to face. So if you want to find me, I'll be what's that nothing to nothing, nothing to lose, nothing. works in this real mess and slop misery. See, he's frightened out there. Soon he'll require things that eliminate care. So it's now or it's never, they say. Really, what's real life now? Guess what? You're making it. You never thought you were, but here we go again. So now you got yourself a one big fight. But like you just spend the rest of your life.
that was fun. Right? So much fun. Welcome on this wonderful overcast Sunday day on the East Coast. Coming at you live and loud, right in between all the cities that are most corrupt and wicked and wonderful. We got Philly to the north directly. We got DC roundabout that way. We got Baltimore right over there. We got plenty of luxurious and wonderful beaches for you and your family to enjoy a wonderful stay here on the corrupt and wicked East Coast. Yeah, there's lots more around me, too, right? You know, this is where Biden comes from, and, you know, he rides the train. We're very down to earth around here. Very much so. Well, lots to talk about and no one to tell it to. Maybe you'll come around later, and you'll soak up all those secrets. The scales will fall from your eyes, and meaning and purpose shall be yours. Well, whether anyone wants to come and join the party or not, I think maybe, what should we start with? Suggestions? Maybe we could go through like the news. The news. What's going on in the world? Oh my word, oh my word, oh my word. So I took a little trip through the news, right? That place, person, place, and thing, the news. Took a trip through it. And I said, you know, I know a bunch of people got murdered in a mall in Texas. Allen, Texas. And it's not, none of these incidents are, how can I put this? I was going to say commonplace, but they are commonplace. None of them are, the death toll is not what qualifies these as horrific events in more or less, you know, quantities. I'd say maybe more because more people suffer, but in this case, it is a binary. It's a fucked up thing happening versus it doesn't need to happen, right? So I went to look into this one. This one feels, they're all uniquely tragic and disgusting. But this one feels, it feels particular in a way that grabs even our most desensitized and like a lot of us just sit out here. We just sit out here in the news, right? We're just out here looking at stuff, gathering and comparing and contrasting and link copying and pasting and the routine, you know, is the same. The material might be different, but the routine is the same. This feels different. This feels like even the most callous and established in their routines are going to be feeling a little extra alienated by this one. The fact that it's in Texas, too, where our most shocking and high volume, institutionally challenging Uvalde incident has occurred recently. So I go to get up on the details. Let's make sure my mic is working. My mic, okay, it's working. My apologies. It cuts out, so I got to watch that. I look into it to see, you know, like what am I missing? Because I wanted to go through just some basic, I got my cat coming to join me. She's going to jump up here and knock over everything. Which one is it? Oh, it's the boy. He's a real bad troublemaker. Okay. Uvalde, we're all familiar with that. It's still raw on our souls, right? It's sitting there just searing into whatever sensitive parts we've got left on that thing. But this one, it opens that wound again and it just blasts chlorine into it. So I'm like, well, let me just go get the details, the talking points, because it's worth mentioning as we approach the state of the world here right now, today, in this stream that I'm going to attempt to just go. We're going to be here for hours, so get comfortable. Or fast forward. Do whatever you want to do. This is a testament. This is a testament to to things that we've not yet been able to describe. It's a testament to, hold on a second. This is a testament to reality, all right? I'm not saying I appreciate or am feeling reality more than, say, the parents or family members involved in, who's been slaughtered recently. But this is all one big thing, all right? It's human nature to make the local comparison, to say, well, I know a guy or I know a girl or this happened to me or my dad told me, I work with someone, where I work, something you're going to pull off of your local comparisons. If you work somewhere and the person next to you gets paid a little bit more, that's going to bug you far more than someone in a completely different job getting paid 10 times more. We make the local comparison and we let that irritate us. That is an error in reasoning, all right? But it's human nature, so we have to take for granted that that's going to be there. Not everyone thinks this way, but it seems to be the tension that sucks people. It's always pulling people into that kind of, I don't know, like blasé miasma of, if you say, hey, what's going on in the world? They are heavily reliant on what other people have said. That they're not able to abstract a meaningful explanation of what this means. What does this mean, not just for this country, but this world? And on top of that, you've got plenty of people contributing to that conversation that don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's okay to some extent, because you're never going to be all the way there. You got to experiment, you got to try, you got to push, you got to get out there, engage, and refine your understanding and process. But so much of this is driven by personality types, where someone says, I want to be seen like. That's a different conversation, but it's out there. That's the canvas we're working on, and what I'd like to do is I would like to illustrate, articulate, and encapsulate a better description, so people can access it, refer to it, use it, incorporate it into your own understanding of things, because it's necessary. I don't think most people are helplessly confused and in suspension like this. I think there are a lot of people that are not like this, but they're not participating in the conversation. They're not creating content. They're not retweeting bullshit. They're not involved in what we make as the local comparison to what is going on. We're like, this is what's going on, and everything outside of that is incidental at best. And if something really shocking happens, then it gets to, it gets incorporated into that routine of the callous phonies. There's stuff we can look at and we can say, that's how it works. That's how it works. Now we, as individuals with agency, can approach that and say, I would like to do something different than that. And just like, okay, I'll use me as an example here, since no one's here. We're going for maybe quantity, not quality here right now, today, at least right this moment. Let me see. I'd hate to just be doing my own talking in the mirror thing with, ain't nobody here. But that's okay. Right now is right now, and it's going to extend into a lot more of the timeline than the aforementioned point. The world is a mess, guys. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. There are so many different fault lines that are not only being exploited, but they're like injected with a glowing mutagen pink. So it's like these fault lines glow with this threatening, eerie, weird, modern, yet vaporwave retro. It's out there. Just look. Okay, it's there. You don't have to understand what it means. You don't understand why it is, but it's out there. Quantity, quality, local comparison. I'll come back to that. With chat, with people in chat, that would be so helpful to be like, hey, dumbass, you were talking about this. And I say, I was talking about that? Okay. Blah, 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 blah. I say, blah, 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 blah. Oh, fuck, the troublemaker cat's back. Hey, Eddie. Hey, hold on a second. All right, this cat is a threat to national security. I love him. He's part of the nation, but he's also an element of grave danger. Okay, we're talking about a lot of stuff, and I didn't want to get that hot and heavy. I've noticed that other streamers, people who do this, they take their sweet time. Say, hey, how's everybody doing? Blah, 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 blah. And that's fine. I get that people need that. They need a little normalcy. They need a little social familiarity. It's nice to know that some of the streamers that are mainstays, and not just streamers, personalities on Twitter, all of this. It's nice to know that certain people are just there. It's just happening. And you go and you check on it. You say, oh, yeah, they're there. And that feels good because we anticipated it successfully. And that is what it is. But when it comes to going out a few clicks further, extrapolating past that point, saying, well, what does this mean? It's like, the anti-trans, it's not just anti-trans, it's anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, and it's viciously so. That conversation is, close that door if you're going to make noise. Sorry, we got a lot of activity on the perimeter. Talking about what we expect, familiarity. When we extrapolate past that point, and we say, well, what does this mean? Okay, okay, an extension of the culture war, the anti-LGBTQ plus legislation in particular, the culture war sentiments, the media messaging is always going to be hateful. You're always going to have evangelical, alienated fuckwads out there blaring their bad information as loud as they can. That's part of the point. Like I'm starting to observe, people need other people to tell them what they are going to say when they're presented with that culture war talking point. What's the right talking point? And at this point in time, sorry to use the word point over and over again. Man, I wish you guys had a cat cam. He's a big fat boy, and he's doing some funny stuff. See if I can finish one single thought. We'll get back to all that. Extrapolating based on the culture war, using our familiar, personalities and institutions. It could be a television show. It could be a podcast. It could be a billboard on the road. Anything that we're expecting is going to be there is going to bring us some type of comfort. How much and what type of comfort is relative to your deal, to your biz. But I wanted to scan the news, and I wanted to see, because it's not very hard to sum up the entirety of what's happened today, right? In the news, the 24-hour news cycle. There's only so many things. Sometimes you'll get a rush or a burst of crazy stuff. It's usually interrelated. It could be like geopolitical, it could be economic, but essentially it's very limited. You have a limited selection of things to talk about. However, the intensity of the culture war is the news all the time, and we know this. The culture war registers, and I'm glad we have this name for it, the culture war. It might not be the most appropriate. It may actually serve as a self-fulfilling prophecy because, not so long ago, culture war was slang, and the kids were tired of it by the time the olds even were willing to. We wait. Us olds, we wait. We say, I don't know about cap. I don't know about that one. I don't know about based. I don't know about. I'm going to wait and see because these happen. These move so quickly. You'll have some cool kid club that's using some. It's just like everything on the internet. These subreddits and things like that. There's a certain sense of humor. There's a certain lexicon. There are certain personalities. There are certain dynamics, and there are certain aesthetics that will recur. And those help us feel like, oh, this is my place. This is my people. And not just anyone can come in here and start talking this talk and walking the walk. And if they try, they're going to stick out like cringe, right? Right, guys? Like, whoa, cringe. So we watch, we wait, we say, a lot of times they're recycled words anyways. Or like based before, a couple of years ago meant that you were morally bankrupt. Like someone that was based behavior was taboo. So now it's the opposite. I said it at a wedding we went to last autumn. Brother-in-law. It's just anyways, I said based, and my nephew, who's super cool dude, he's like, oh, that's like a white supremacist thing. I was like, white supremacist thing? No, it's not. But in his world and the associations that he has with it, that might be exactly what it suggests. And who knows, linguistically speaking, or what people are associating with the word on their own. We don't confer and check notes. We don't say, is that what you meant? Well, that's what I meant. And when we try to do that, we get into fights. We get into arguments. It gets dramatic, really quickly, really hard. So I don't know if it's just the olds, but the wises, us wises, will watch the words and we'll scan. And it's cool. It's great when a new word gets into the lexicon. And the model for media right now is to not break down Gen Z. It's to sell the idea of breaking down Gen Z. Like, we don't give a fuck about Gen Z. It's not a thing. You motherfuckers out there jumping on subway tracks to protest stuff that is problematic, but you're making it worse, people. You're making it worse. I'm not, and don't say, well, what do you think? We should do nothing if we do? No, that's not what I said. Stick around. Learn how to look at what is there, okay? That's the thing. You say, well, you're going all over the place. Yeah, we're describing a lot, but the patterns recur, and after a while, just like, cap and cringe and based and shit, it's passe and fucking tacky. And you're like, if somebody's using that word, they're either using it ironically, or they're, some post-hipster wannabe, and that's cringe, brah. It's like, oh, so cool. It's so cool. Like, that was modern not so long ago. And look at fashion, okay? Look at fashion. Look at the shitty, terrible bands like Color Me Bad from 1993 or whatever. Just imagine, look up Color Me Bad on your own time and scan their outfits. Just take a little gander and say, could I pull that off right now? I mean, if it's an original look, if it's exciting, then why isn't it timeless? There may be good or bad answers to that question, but what's undeniable is you can't put on a pair of suspenders as a dude with one thing unbuckled and like purple, red, yellow, I get the where they shave the little pencil, chin strap thing, like the yo boy / white dudes that are, you know what I'm talking about, like House of Pain kind of, like hairdo and beard thing. God bless these toughs from the city, but it shit don't age well. It does not age well. So us wises, we're like, I don't want to participate in being hopelessly and helplessly competitive within something that just falls apart. No one wins that game, okay? You compete, but no one wins. And it may, and here's the point, it may describe something that theretofore was elusive, nebulous, disconnected. Like I said, we don't check with each other to say, is that what you meant when you said that? Or is that what you think this meant? We don't check and confirm. We don't have a consensus over this. It's just through behavior. And if you're exposed to that behavior and that's your environment, it's a familiarity. It's a comfort. And that means a great deal. But this whole we're Gen Z, which is not, it's a total, everything on the internet is an absolute mix. I have not found anything except even Roblox. I was going to say except for Roblox, but not even Roblox. This is an even mix of what do you call them? Squeakers? Squeakers, Gen Zers, millennials. I mean, it's fucking stupid to put names on things like this, but it may be helpful if it's describing something that is recurrent. We don't have a name for it. What are we going to call that? It's this, it's that. The culture war. The culture war. I got a little red. Okay, no, it's yellow. The culture war, excuse me, is real. It describes something that's real. Like I said, it may serve as an aspect of, not as an aspect of, it may serve as a self-fulfilling prophecy, or it may catalyze opposition and partisanship that was not scheduled before, right? It gets put on the schedule because we're anticipating it. There is truth to that. I gave some shit to someone I consider too much to talk about, and no one's here, so what the fuck is the point? Let's talk as generally as we can. There's a culture war going on. I don't know why. I don't know exactly what point it started at, but it's definitely going on. I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg, is what I'm saying that started. But there's a whole field full of shitting, stinking chickens now. And chickens can't fly, so let's cook them. Let's have a feast. Let's move on to the next thing, because the point that matters here is that division in the culture war is unnecessary. It serves no ends that either side would claim to want. Be a little objective. I'm not saying objectify everything. You cannot do that in life. You should not do that in life. It's tempting. I see a lot of autistic wannabes, okay, which is weird. That's another weird thing about the modern day and age. A lot of autistic wannabes come out of the woodworks and say, oh, I'm autistic, I'm an autistic meltdown, blah, 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 blah. No, you're lazy and you're at odds with the world and you're unwilling to resolve those things. Now, some people are autistic. I have tons of autistic family members. I'm not personally autistic. I think I would land on the spectrum somewhere, but autism means that your sense of emotions in other people, your ability to empathize proactively is limited at least. All right? It means other things too, but that is the main point as far as like the connection between me over here and you over there. We should be able to reciprocate and share ideas and interact as humans, not perfectly, but in a somewhat expectant way. Like, someone's not going to come up and spit in your face and kick you in the junk. That's not acceptable. You think maybe someone's going to say, hi, how you doing? How's your day going? Stuff that they don't really care about the answer, but that's fine. That's fine. And then online I see people say, oh, I'm just bad with small talk because I'm autistic. You're not autistic, motherfucker. You're not autistic. Everyone's uncomfortable with social interactions. Everybody. The people that aren't are especially uncomfortable with it. They're overcompensating. Think of Mary Kay salespeople or with a Lululemon or whatever. Shit like that is a projection of insecurity that you're eagerly trying to pull into your realm so you can change the circumstances. Girl boss, blah, 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 blah. Socially, we are hurting. We're totally fucked up. And the division that is real, for whatever reason, is unnecessary. Its underpinning reason is fallacious. The culture war is real nonetheless, and it's ripping and roaring, running down, like smoke, like going for hours. You're sitting in the desert watching someone drive away. It takes a long time for them to disappear, and it is just ripping up that road. It's on fire. The news. Okay, there's just so many things to get into here, but the point is they recur, and it's nothing like special when someone is so upset and taken aback by this news. It's just so tragic, or I don't like that person. I don't like their face. I don't like that politician because they talk like this or whatever. It's a lot easier now that there's a culture war to say, oh, well, I don't really know why, but they're on that side of the culture war, and thus intensity. It's good to be objective with matters that are outside of your control. To say, if I'm going to engage, if I'm going to take a piece of myself and put it out there externally to, be part of the world and do what we do as the complex dynamic creatures that we are. If I'm going to do that, I should probably understand. I should probably say, well, I'm going to put 1 hour into it. And as long as I can meet this goal, then I'll be good. If you just go in there in general with your intensity, you're going to get chewed up, alienated, and it's going to push you into a more radical mind frame or apathetic. It doesn't produce the result that inspired the intensity to begin with. So if it's self-defeating, why the fuck are you doing it? It's good to be objective, at least a little. Now, that said, some people who I think do at least sit on the spectrum. More Asperger's than autistic. There's high functioning autism. I'm saying more like just barely on the spectrum. Will freak out about details. Actually, it was 1946, not 1943. Could you imagine thinking it was 1940? Things like that. They don't matter. Or like Ben Shapiro is a great example of this. He'll say, it'll be like, you spelled it there, not there. And then the debate's over. Dumb, I win. And like does the audience know what we mean? Does it get them? If we did poll them and say, what's the consensus? Is that what you got from that? Is that what you got from that? And everyone comes up, even, what the fuck does it matter if there's another way to say it that no one thought it was no one matched that reference to the word. We get hung up on these details and scrutinizing matters of material objectivity. Material objectivity is just one part of what is in front of us. We have other aspects of self. And I figure it's Sunday and no one's here, so we're just going to real quick shift into church time, okay? Church time. I am not a Christian. I am not a Jew. I am not a Muslim. I am not a Buddhist. I am not anything. And I am also not a third way person, okay? I understand the political implications of third wayisms. No. It's one of the reasons I haven't been out here preaching until now. I had to figure out, what I'm about, essentially, what I'm about. When I feel intensely bothered by things like 8 people slain in a mall in, again, Texas, and then I go to look on the news to just get up on the details, there's essentially that and the Wagner Group pulling out of Russia's employ, which I don't think they will. I really don't think they will. I think the Wagner Group is just saying that to get ammunition. They want to be able to kill more easily. They want to at least kill more people than are being killed on their side, or at least feel like they have a chance to do that. It's a fucking game. It's a game. He said May 10th. The guy's like, if we do not by May 10th, it's not about their body count. It's not about that. They would not be this involved. I know they're a contracted mercenary group. That's one article of news in the news. The other one is the shooting yesterday. And it was yesterday. These days really do blur together. Man, I do not understand why. All right, it doesn't matter. The news. So I look, and I've been setting this up and just not delivering. I look and I see that somebody has driven into a group of presumably immigrants, Mexican immigrants, and killed the same amount of people that died yesterday. Now, I'll have to loop back. Maybe fatalities aren't that high, but we can confirm later. We're going to be here for a long time. We're going to go over a Hasan stream where Hasan Abi Piker, brought up the Froggy Fresh drama and iDubbbz and Content Creator Clash 2 or Creator Clash 2 or whatever, which is interesting because of the Sam Hyde connection. And if you don't know Hasan, if you're watching this, you know what the hell's going on there. But Hasan was called out unexpectedly by a flaming maniac who had just won a UFC world championship or something pretty significant. And he immediately, what are you going to do now? You're supposed to say, I'm going to Disney World or whatever. He says, Hasan Piker, I'm coming for you. And it's like, he got his Scottish and his Irish accent mixed up, but whatever. I'm no good at that either. I don't know how I would feel if I were Hasan and that was what I was dealing with. Because even if you're cool and you're you know what, he's just doing a bit, then you're going to understand he's trying to steal your steam. He's trying to use your, the platform thing. You kids are hip on that. You're too fucking hip. You need to take that hipness down, dip that hip. You're platforming. Can you believe they platformed this guy and platforming? The platforming currency is way too overvalued. Way too overvalued. There's no way around that. I'm not missing anything. It is way too overvalued. People are taking this platforming idea And they're using it to make themselves feel special. But if anybody else says they're special and can prove it, then they say, oh, you're so arrogant. What makes you think you know things that other people don't? Well, motherfuckers, if I didn't, then I would have other people watching this right now. If I didn't, I would have friends and I would be much less intense. I don't need 10,000 people. I need 12. I need 12 people to understand what I'm saying. I need 12 people to bring me what they're saying so I can understand it. We reciprocate our understanding of the meta and the real and the ideal and all of these things that are, this is my point, you can objectify the material, but you're missing, the majority of that's just one part of what we are. And people who over objectify and analyze and compete over, factoids and data points and empirics are, even if they're technically right in those regards, they're more wrong than right because they're leaving out. It's like using one ear instead of your eyes and your ears and your mouth and your nose. And you say, well, in this ear, I hear this frequency and it's actually 22 hertz or something, not 23 hertz. Man, fucking people. I could go through my personal life and say, these are the people I've met, these are the friendships I've had, these are the places I've gone, these are the jobs that I've done. I've been around, I've done a lot. You probably have, if not more, okay? It's not a competition, but I'm not just sitting here in my house absorbing this through the screen and then saying, I feel so intensely because I saw it on the screen. They put citations there. They had citations to Wikipedia articles. Where are your citations? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating how limited people are. And then when you bring that up, people say, oh, what makes you think you're so? Well, because nobody is responding. And I know that people respond to this. I know how people think. You probably do too. That's not a contest, but I know more. And I can demonstrate it. That does not mean that I can make everyone happy, sitting around being like, oh, did everyone have a good time? It is a matter of objectivity. Subjectivity is part of what we can objectify. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but it does take work, it takes time, it takes care, and most importantly, it takes multiple perspectives all confirming a consensus that you either are seeking confirmation in or developing, intermutually. You need other people to reciprocate what you are compelled by. And, reciprocation is the word that connects it so that the other person can think the same thing, and you produce something greater than the sum of your parts then. Yeah, I said parts. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we're just going to be here a long time, so let's just take it down just a little notch or two here. The world is a mess. It's a mess. And this is nothing new. Saying that especially is nothing new. And saying the world is a mess, might trigger associations with with media personalities or individuals, entities, institutions that, it's kind of like, oh, how you doing? Same shit, different day. Ain't that the truth? Like another dollar, another day, or I could use more money. I hear that, stuff like that. We may take it for granted. There's just so much to talk about. And reciprocating actual, functional, compelling understanding of varied and interconnected causes, not effects, causes, right? Now, you have to observe and mark the effect if you're going to deal with the cause that way. But the policing of the effect and the tone and the standard commercial expectation on people that that you carry yourself in a certain way, which we're going to get into in the Hasan thing. That's the main reason. The iDubbbz Froggy Fresh thing, I think that's interesting, but that serves more as a means to believe that Hasan is really, this is significant rumination. All right, this This pontification is connected to conviction for him. Because of a few different things. I'm saying the effect, the cause is in order, and therefore the effect is worth observing. It's not a disparate or disconnected or random or, it's not an affect to charm. It's not, like I said, the commercial expectations on people to be a certain degree of tan, or to have your teeth look nice, or to not have a crooked eye, or those are the basic things. But then outside of that, you're like, why are you sleeping so late or whatever? Not asking, do you work at night? Not considering, is there a different convention? What do you do for a living? And then until you're like, oh, they're a loser, right? These expectations are usually in line with some greater expectation that we feel is placed on us. And because it's placed on us and we allow it to move us, that other people that don't are arrogant and they're assholes. And we resent them, and we build our reasoning about, why we dislike, distrust, or resent them. It's a lot like the witch burnings thing. And Trump would use that vernacular to make his case, because in the culture war itself, whether we're talking chicken or egg order, he is told, okay, I really don't think Trump figured any of this out on his own. He's just a sociopath to go up there and perform. He's a fearless, right? Which is sociopathic because it's disconnected from, what's underneath. We look at Trump in a lot of ways, and this is why we say people that are certain and secure and intense and frustrated, that don't conform to our understanding of what the culture wars, sides entail. If they deviate from that, then we want to place them on the other side, and we want to say this, that, and the other. But I think without Trump, that sentiment would not be in full effect. It's not with the majority of people. That's why you have really terrible politicians winning. They play off this expectation of the status quo. All right? That's a much easier way to put this. The expectations are on the status quo. The status quo is a really complicated and messy, moving, shifting thing. And again, if you ask this person, that person, what do you think that is? If they're practiced in putting into words their observations and thoughts, because it's not easy. It takes practice. You objectify effective speech, and you can't exercise or execute effective speech unless you know what it is you're trying to say. And because we never fully understand anything, that's one of the natural aspects of this world. We can never fully understand anything, including ourselves. We get closer, but if we are to understand something, it would be self. External things, especially other people, we have a desire to want to know that person and for them to know us, like I was mentioning. But we never fully achieve that. Nonetheless, if we don't try to satisfy that urge, that instinct, then you become antisocial and other things. The status quo is a very complicated thing, and if I start trying to break that down, I'm going to be talking for 30 hours. The deal. What's the point? Hasan video is going to be fun because it deals with that status quo thing. He talks about, take a shower and stuff like that. And it has nothing to do with anything. Nothing. I think some people are like artistic and less concerned with the neurotic requirements of the status quo. You got to look nice. You got to present yourself. Wake up on time. You do one thing. Like, that's Jordan Peterson talk right there, my man. Really, I know you don't mean it that way, but that's what it is. Objectively, that's where it connects. And as I point these things out, people are like, oh, you don't want to be lectured at. Well, that's fine, but maybe consider what I'm saying first, or ask for clarification, or isolate something and say, this is wrong. I would say, thank you. If you're right, if you have a point, then thank you. That's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for honest and real, meaningful, convicted engagement in a time when it is sorely lacking And it is, if it were available, it would be totally crushed and overwhelmed, both in light and form, from the hulking, light blocking form of the status quo. That's the media, that's the institutions, that's our social nature, that's the divisions that are already there that have been unresolved. Think race relations in America. This is not just black and white. This is Asian against the status quo here. This is Hispanic and, Hispanic, Latin. There are so many different, Inuit, sovereign nations. There are so many different points of comparison that there's been this kind of lie, like a post hoc, like blur, like on my drawing program, there's a blur function. That's kind of like when you rub the pencil on paper, it makes it blur. It's like it blurs it by saying we're a melting pot. We're a melting pot. We're a nation of immigrants. And we all know that's bullshit. I wish it weren't. I'm not for that line of thinking. I'm not saying that's the way it should be or anything like that. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. It should be like that. The melting pot nation of immigrants thing should be the status quo. But it's such human nature to use this in-group, out-group, fear the unknown, alienation, familiarity dynamic that is us. This mix of materials. We'll get to that later. The news. The news. I might be jumping all over the place, but if an intrepid and ambitious editor were to go through this, you could organize the various, put things in different buckets, and they're going to be holistic arguments. Eventually, they all connect. Maybe that's why I'm jumping around. I need other people here. I don't want 1 million subscribers. I don't want to make money. I don't want to do any of that shit. I just want to have good. It would be nice to afford my family a return for my time away and the investment of self that I put here into this, whatever this is. Just like any other dad that's away from their family. And this is not the only thing I do. So, I'm not asking for pity. I'm not saying, I sacrifice for you. No, this is for me. Okay, this is for me. I need to do it. Just like anything creative. It's something that needs to come out. When you know what you want to say, when you know what needs to be said, you can't rest until it's out, until it's done. And if it's your first project, which fortunately this is not for me, then you come up to the limitation. You find that you can never produce the ideal, no matter how good you are. That's a very dense and complicated conundrum in its own. People will always look at, say, another artist, because when we're kids or young, impressionable, there are things that really wow us, and they affect our sense of. It could be a magician. It could be a cheesy ass magic act. It could be. I like that stuff. Sorry, of course I do. I'm a dork, right? Yeah. As I say, I'm a dork. I think of all these like crazy, violent, urban moments I've been involved in. Like I could give you some examples to contrast, but that would alienate you. And I'm trying to build just a little more familiarity. And we're already dealing with heavy subjects and a lot on the table right now. But I can always edit this stuff later. Or people may feel impressed. I believe in spirit. I believe in Damon, where the word demon comes from. It's a terrible shame. The way especially Platonic philosophy has been. There's a lot there. I think the most significant question to ask would be, does the influence of Athens hold up to the importance that we assign in Western culture, in Western history? Because there's a critical question in regard to the Persian Empire. If the Persians were not defeated by the Greeks, because the Persians had just as much, if not more, in ways of advancement, philosophy. They were more advanced in geonavigation and some of these things, matters of health. There was a lot that they were more advanced in. And I don't think they had a culture of like kitty fucking, which the Greeks did. And that is a hard thing for me to square. There's this very strange orientation of gender. I put this where the gender meets the soul, okay, or the spirit, right? Those are two different things. Soul and spirit are different things in ancient Greece. Soul is psyche. Think like psyche with a PS, except it's a U. Psyche. That's soul. And then spirit is more of a Gnostic thing, and we'll deal with that later. But just for now, for shorthand, spirit is a thing. Okay, material is the living, the dirt, the flesh. It's what the Marxist-Leninists, materialists, say it is. That conditional aspect is what it is. And I think Marx is instructive and helpful because if you cut off the other two very important, more significant aspects of what we are, and you just dealt with the material, Marx is right. But people have picked up on this, and they've also seen the terrible effects when you say, that's what you got from this? You say, what do you get from that? What do you think that means? If you take consensus in history, no less, on the ground, what people think Marxism means or is, put aside the fact that Das Kapital in its complete volumes is not good writing. It's not good writing. But it's a process, and it's all there. And for people who are interested, they get into it. And there's more there than there are in the I don't know, I was going to say like the scriptures, but these are the types of conversations I would love to have with you guys. I don't want to sit around saying, I'm better than you, because I'm not. I'm lower than you. But I'm compelled and compulsed by things that I understand better than you. And the things that people say that they care about, that they're so concerned with, that motivate them. Most of them are lying. All they really want is just to be comfortable and to confirm their bias. That's what we're working with. And you can't change that. You can't say they're going to have class consciousness one day. No. And you can say, if you remove the market economy, then there will be no wars or, oh my God. That is so ignorant. Humans are violent and nasty, terrible creatures. We have to work at elevating ourselves. And when we do find some elevation, you're dealing with things like what Dunning-Kruger suggests. We get overexcited at the beginning, and we may alienate other people. But what I find in the effects of Dunning-Kruger are that people who are inspired to, really try to take ownership, not try to take ownership, to take ownership over, some intellectual, you've internalized something that's exciting and compelling you. That excitement is a good thing. Professors, people who are in positions of academic authority, or can represent that field of studies, it's paleontology or any number of things that maybe like kids get excited about. Kids being excited about and saying, I'm an expert on dinosaurs. That's Dunning-Kruger, okay? That's what that is. But for kids, I'm using this device so you can understand, instead of being so, it's how cringe when people think they're good at things or they're excited about what that means to them. Instead of saying, oh, that's cringe and that's so terrible and you're so dumb and who do you think you are? Because, really just Trump messed you up. You guys think that any ambitious personality that's willing to stare down a dumb idea is just using the public, because you're not evaluating what the objective function of that person's speech or presence in the media landscape is. You don't do it. You look at the culture war lines and you look at the patterns and the archetypes that you think match. I mean, forget considering what an archetype is and if it works that way. IRL. Let's see if anyone's hanging out here. Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. You want to see something? You want to see if I can remember what the hell I was talking about 3 seconds ago? Yeah. So people, they look at the archetypes and they anticipate that somebody else that's demonstrating a behavior that they've associated with that archetype is, that it puts that other person in the same category that you're familiar with. And that's bad. That's bad news bears. It's bad news snakes. It's bad news badgers. It's bad news slugs. It's bad news all around. It may hold up sometimes, but you're really gambling. And when you walk away from the position, you're going to say, oh, I was there. I know. And you're going to take these local comparative details, and you're going to use them to undergird your righteousness, which is bad. That's not the same thing as someone saying, oh, I know a lot about, this history or music or art or something like that, or an actor or that's not the same thing. There's a difference between being compelled and excited and an asshole. There's a difference there. I keep going back to thinking that person that drove into a crowd, it was outside of Catholic Charities service event too. They mowed down 7 Mexican immigrants at a church thing, like a charity thing, but nonetheless, it was on, church grounds or something like that. I don't know. I didn't look into those details. It was a Catholic charity service event, and there was a gathering of people receiving assistance. And somebody drove their shitty little hatchback SUV type mid-set. They drove it in the crowd and killed 7 people and injured a bunch more. Now, at this time, we don't know if the driver, had the intent to harm people or if it was an accident, but it's looking a lot like it's the former. And it's in Texas. That's in Texas too. Was it Brownsville, I think? I mean, wow, Texas deserves better. People deserve better. Why the hell is Greg Abbott the governor there? I've been saying this nonstop since I've come online. Texas is a weak link in keeping us out of a civil war. Texas and Florida. I mean, you've got this swath of red states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia that have their own cultural, evangelical, and they've also got their cultures too of institutionalized families. Think the Murdochs in South Carolina, the guy that, essentially killed his family and tried to fake his own assault by a hitman on the side of the road. Alex Murdaugh, I think. He was not a district attorney, but he was a bigwig in the legal system down there. And that's that Southern thing where they're like, it's not how we do things around here. You see my cousin Vinny? Okay. There's a lot of that, but that's a little different. That's a few shades off from the Texas-Florida situation. Florida and Texas both have massive populations of people that would vote out these fuckers. But this is why they have voter restrictions. And people in the culture war who do not live in those areas and are not of those classes do not believe it. They hear, because of the way it gets talked about in the news and the media, they say, these this is Jim Crow on steroids and things like that. And then someone who looks into it says, no, it just says that, you can't do early voting or there's going to be 12 drop boxes instead of 30. It's stuff like that. And on the surface, you'd see that and say, someone's overreacting. But in the aggregate, when you look at those policy changes, I don't know what you'd call those restrictions that are legally being, spread around, they shave off percentages of Democratic voter bases. And it's the same thing in voting districts too. It's not this outright evil thing that you could say, aha, we got you. I mean, you kind of can now, but not in one single thing. There's no one smoking gun type effect that you're going to have to make your case with. Yeah, wow. There's so many people out here. There's millions and millions of people. There was a Getting Over It video, a speed run, that's got 35 million views. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'd watch it. It's pretty cool. But I got nobody watching. I never have anyone watching. I get no likes on Twitter. I get none of that. And it's like, someone will put up some dumb shit and it'll get 4 likes or something. I've really been studying this. Jealousy is real. Okay. Envy is real. It's more like, what's wrong with me in comparison to that? And people are what's the word for it? Very eager to offer an answer to that question. Quit schizo posting. Motherfucker, if I schizo posted or not, I'm not looking for hollow approval. I don't want those 4 likes. I want real engagement. I don't want your money. I don't want you to sell me anything. I just want to find, out of the billions of people on Earth, at least 12 people. Okay? 500 would be better. Okay? Plus 166. I'm out here telling you I am the Antichrist. Do I look the part? Like ask yourself what comes to mind when I say that. I'm the Antichrist. I'll tell you what comes to my mind. I think of the History Channel shows and things where they say the Antichrist everyone will love him and he'll be a politician or he'll be a military leader and he'll have all this, and that's what I think of. I think of the aesthetics of power. That's not the case. This is a spiritual and social calling. As far as a testimony in Jesus Christ goes, that's complicated. I don't know. I don't know. But I honestly don't know. And I've tried to know. And I've tried every perspective people can possibly muster when it comes to this stuff. I really have. Try me. I've done Satanism. I've done demonology. I've done, pagan Wiccan stuff. I've done dorky stuff galore. Okay, my resume of dorky stuff is prodigious. Look for ghosts and Ouija boards, and man, I've done some shit. And nothing works. Nothing. I'm a twice baptized Mormon. I'm well versed in Catholicism, which is a long story. I have an affinity for Catholics and Holy Cross here in Dover. I understand Methodism. I understand why Jehovah's Witnesses are fucking screwy, and Mormons are actually really good people. You will never meet, there's no other church on the face of the earth. And of course, me saying this, I'm biased because, of the Mormon thing. But Mormons are uniquely and distinctly an honest and quality person. Generationally, we have some marked separations of type, the type of people. But the uniform thing is this honest, kind, available. It's honesty. Honesty. I don't need other words. Honesty is really a big thing. There's something special about Mormons. There just is. The difference between them and Jehovah's Witnesses. Why are Jehovah's Witnesses not like that? I can tell you why. But I understand those things. I have investigated the theologic, the atheologic, the polytheologic, we can talk about that. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. But what I do know is that I think, therefore I am. And you as well have that same positional advantage. That's where we start. That's where anybody can start. All this other shit, all this other fluff that I'm talking about the news, talking about culture wars, talking about what was I talking about? None of that, all of that is it comes after that point. Self-awareness, consciousness, and agency is the first conversation we have. You say, well, I'm a determinist. Okay, all right, that's fine. I can appreciate that. My take on free will and agency is that it is the exception, not the rule. What does that mean? Free will is the exception, not the rule. Free will is available to us, but awareness is a prerequisite. All right, and that's that objectivity that I mentioned. Being objective about what your purpose and function are. I have to put the caveat on this that is in consideration of the whole of what we are. We're made out of at least 3 selves. Now, there's one, which, I'm not getting this from like Catholicism or Mormonism. These are my thoughts. These are not thoughts. These are facts that I alone have been able to bring to you. It is what it is. I'm not schizophrenic. I have no voices in my head. I terribly mundane and tedious. I love empirics and facts and data. I love that stuff too. I love it too much to use it like these autistic wannabes do, where they're like, well, actually, that word is spelled this way. To think someone would actually have that opinion. And that's what they say on Twitter. They're like, can you imagine being like, who wants to tell them? Who wants to tell them about this? And it's like, I mean, I will, but it's not right. It's not real. It's you reinforcing your own, I don't know, need for familiarity or validation, which I appreciate. You are special and important. That's real. That's true. Us as individuals are massively important. We are not just creatures, okay? This can be proved. This is a fact. Why and what makes that the case is not available to us. We can guess, we can experiment, we can build on our understanding, and we can also make breakthroughs where we say, oh, there was a fundamental or foundational quirk or error in our reasoning here, which means the whole structure that was built on that foundation is flawed, and we have to start over. But that observation allows us to build the better thing, and that's what we do. We keep refining the process, so we say, well, does that caveat actually affect this? And that's, an effect of the Enlightenment and human nature. Who knows how many times on the face of the earth people have advanced to a point that we're just not aware of, and time has erased the evidence. What we are, how we are, what the ideal is, why we want or feel or think or do any of the things we do can be explained. Maybe not accurately or properly or consistently, but they can and should be explained as it is a pull. It is an instinct. It is a tension that seeks to resolve itself, much like sexual tension and our appetites for food and things like that. It affects what would otherwise be a pretty purely spiritual driven self. All right. There's a difference between mind and soul. Okay. There's mental health and there's spiritual health. You cannot cut the spiritual health thing out of there. It shows when people do that. New atheism is a great example of that. It may look good and sound good on TV, but it don't play in reality. It doesn't. I like skeptics like Michael Shermer and I like people that give pushback to conventional ideas. If you push and it holds up or pushes back, you say, wow, okay, that's a real deal thing. If you push and it's like, what's wrong with you always pushing on things and nobody wants to be able to push on things? It's like, well, then you don't have the structure that you think you do. Because if someone pushes on me and they say, you said this or you did that, I would love for people to do that. Like, honestly, not in a way to just say like, stop schizo posting and run away. I'm like, when someone says stop schizo posting, I'd say, what did I say? What did I say? At first I didn't know what schizo posting meant, right? I thought, okay, I have a friend, I'll say friend, excuse me, relative, okay, it's relative, that I'm responsible for, put it that way. And there were years where he was really taking a lot of LSD. And it was tough to tell when he was or wasn't after a while. He would send, this was like flip phone era, he would send me texts that were, thousands and thousands of words long. And I feel terrible for not having worked through that with him at the time. You see the pattern, you say, oh, it's another tome of insanity. Even if I get involved in this, even if I respond, engage, then I'm just going to be encouraging more of the same. Because when you look for meaning, it's just not there. It's just a rambling, roving, subconscious like eruption. Not erection, eruction. If I say look it up, you say, oh, that's that personality. You say, don't you hate when people look it up? Who wants to tell them, blah, blah, blah. But you're not dealing with the thing itself. If you looked it up, then your knowledge would increase. And the more your knowledge increases, the closer you get to truth, to wisdom. this is a process you can dismiss or hand wave, but it's real. And my initial point for this was the people that do dismiss it to make a habit out of categorically dismissing, it shows. It shows. The new atheist fuckheads out there, like let's face it, they're all white boys, all of them. Girls are smarter than that. Ladies are smarter than that. They may go through a phase. They may, go through a phase. Like Sam Harris is a very attractive guy when it comes to this type of thing because he knows what he's talking about. He's an actual intellectual and he pushes back on things, and he also brings new data that explains other things. It drives me crazy that Michael Brooks, when he was alive, and Sam Cedar in the Majority Report looked at Sam Harris like they did. Unless I'm missing something, I think I understand why they did that. They did that because Sam Harris, at a time that Islamophobia was raging, was also saying that there is a direct correlative between the ideologies and cultural priorities, emotions that we find in a lot of people that have these beliefs. This is not a genetic thing, okay? It's like, let me finish the thought before I give a critique. That's one thing. The first thing is that at a time that there was heightened Islamophobia, this is also a time that, Charlie Hebner, look it up. It's not a one-sided thing. These fears are legit. So when Sam Harris comes in and he says, yeah, there actually is something to the religious component of that. You say, well, that's the exception, not the rule. That's true. I didn't say it wasn't. I'm not even trying to. In fact, let's be really careful that we say the overwhelming majority of Muslims are good and kind people akin to Christians or anybody else that is purposely trying to become better and more like their loving and kind, all-knowing Creator wants them to be. The fullness of our experience is found in, that type of holistic evolution. People that are consciously and purposely trying to apply principles and ethics and standards that create that betterness in themselves and the world around them are what we're talking about. That's the majority of people. However, why is the exception manifesting? We can look at some of the ideological underpinnings and some of the cultures and competitions that are in these areas, in these ways, with this explanation and this history. So then Michael Brooks would be like, type of reaction, which he was a very intelligent guy. He got it. He had the spirit. He was body, soul, and spirit. He had gnosis. Okay? This is why I feel okay talking critically about him. I investigated his takes. I don't like watch the Michael Brooks show because I didn't care for his kind of like, it's like an urban Jewish smarminess, okay? I love that in a person, okay? I love that in a person, but I don't need to familiarize myself with the shtick anymore. Like, I know what the uber leftist academic, down-to-earth guy is about. That's like my world, okay? Also, I said, I mentioned I have an affinity for Catholicism, Judaism as well, which is a very, very dense and complicated thing, especially right now with the way Israel is versus the American, in particular, Jewish population. What a weird world when it comes to religions and things like that. Yeah, my mom grew up in an affluent Jewish neighborhood in the suburbs of Baltimore. Her father was an accountant, and they were the only, I think they were like Christian scientists or something. My mom's, one side of my mom's dad's side, mom's side, my grandmother's side, they were Christian scientists. So there was that. But because we're still like in the area and that's where, her life, and also Mormons fancy themselves as an aspect of Israel. One of the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh, I believe, are the ones that Manasseh, I don't know. We can learn things in our lives and forget them. And people will say, you don't know that. I mean, like, motherfucker, I used to know this, that, and the other. I painstakingly, logic, formal logic. Oh my God, I've spent hours on that. But I couldn't sit here and break down, I'm reaching for my notes just to establish the basic categories of, my mind is not like that. I'm a generalization guy. I need the details in front of me as a point of reference. I want to put a big timeline on my wall, like essentially prehistory to now. It's going to be huge, but just having the visual, like I do art, I do illustration. Let me show you this. This is the. I wish the jacket. I like the jacket. The jacket didn't take. This is that image of. Stuff. Look, I do paper and pencil. Oh, here's the monks too. Yeah, the monks. It's an angry monk. It's angry. He's like, "Ooh, you talking to me? Make my day." This one, it reminds me. It looks like an alien because of his eyes. This is just copy paper and color erase pencils. But what's it say? If you'd paid attention, you'd be worried too. This is the first one I put up. Who's in charge here? It's a jungle out there. What a great song. I could be wrong now, but I don't think so. It's a jungle out there. And I think this is the last one in the series. Here. What's that say? People think I'm crazy. To worry all the time. If you paid attention, you'd be worried too. But then I do like cutesy stuff like this. You know, a little devil butler guy. He's kind of got like a Peppermint Butler kind of vibe to him. I wanted to do a little comic where it was like an angel and a cutesy, like precious kind of like, what do you call them, chibi bodies or whatever. And then I do like, like zombies and stuff like that. I draw, okay? That's what I'm saying. I draw. And now I'm distracted. What the fuck was the point of all that? I do the drawings. And I meant to bring that up for a reason that was relative to something else. Let me think here, because I've spent more than enough time being super random, and I feel like I'm finally kind of starting to get a little linear discretion. Oh, what are we talking about? All right. I'm talking about drawing, talking about maybe objectifying. I mean, that would be a good reason to bring up drawing. You learn to look at things and break the shapes down. A lot of people will start. They think you start with the finished product. They'll look. I don't know if this is it or not, but people they don't actually really consider the thing in front of them before they apply the generalization that allows them to feel like they can disconnect and dismiss it. Stop schizo posting. And I'd be like, well, what did I say? I was saying about slang when I first came into this. I didn't know what schizo meant to the kids, so to speak. Which again is not a matter of age. Okay, I'm not talking about age. It's like I was talking about. Michael Brooks and Sam Harris. Thank you, Diamond. Like our guiding spirits, our sense of humor, our sense of play, spontaneity, the mix of emotions and personalities that we have. Of course, it's chemical. Of course, it can be explained by the wires and chemicals that be individually, proprietarily. But there's more there than just that. Our personalities are made out of impulses and impressions and wonderful things that differ, but also align. I thought Michael Brooks had it. He had gnosis. All right. He had gnosis. I think I was talking about my family too, and an affinity to Jewish thinking and culture. I was saying, the Mormons do believe that they're, that's an interesting conversation. What do the Mormons believe? What are my thoughts on Joseph Smith, which I've updated recently? And I'm confident in my explanations. I really am. I wish someone would test them. I wish someone would just ask a question, maybe. But we'll have time for that later, eventually. Most likely. Religions are a funky bag of mixes, and the overwhelming majority of people that are involved in religions are relatively good people. And I say relatively because just to be religious requires an active, a proactive effort to refine yourself and to be more fair and to become better. And as we do become better, then we find that we're sitting aside or lonely compared to the group, right? To value knowledge and wisdom and kindness and love and actuality and what a good word to describe like ability, things that provide you with like that give you access to accessibility to new possibilities. All right. That sounds incredibly cheesy unless you're actually describing something that is, available and functional right now. People that are religious do tend to fall into a category that's lonely compared to the worldly consensus. So I give them that credit. But I also look at what is there. I look at what is there, and that puts me at odds. It alienates me with that group because it makes me more atheist than theist. I see how people are so easily, they find their comfort zones with what's familiar, right? And some of what's familiar is a function of questioning what's there and making life into more. But if you're born into a church or a family that follows those standards, that meaning is very different. Converts would be a good example. Someone who converts to a religion is a good example of what I mean by better people. People that are born into religions, they may have an ethical or emotional energy that is more refreshing or sparkly than your average bear, but religion is a complicated and funky bag of a lot of different things. And when it comes to Michael Brooks and Sam Cedar and their opinions about Sam Harris, that it didn't rub me the wrong way, like, oh, I can't believe it's just a wrong opinion. It's a bad opinion, and I want to get at it. I want to put my hands on it and be like, oh, no, that's not right. And I really believe that that's not right. I'm not just trying to put my personality in there and say, I'm smarter than everyone. I'm not fucking smarter than anyone, but I see things that no one else is pointing out, and it might just be by a degree. It might just be by a shade, or it might be, it might be like a Ben Shapiro thing. Well, it's actually the 6th, not the 8th, But I'm not gonna say, oh, could you imagine thinking it was the 8th and not the 6th? We want the best information mutually available to all of us as can be. And that right now especially includes a mental and spiritual picture. You've got rage killings all over the place. The car drove into Mexican immigrants. They knew it was advertised as a Catholic charity service event, and just there's so much shitty toxicity out there that is as easy as hitting a key on a keyboard for people. Other people do it. It's something that happens. There's reasons, the economy, whatever. They feel like it's okay for them. Well, they don't feel like it's okay, but they feel like it's the right choice, something. It doesn't just come out of nowhere and happen for no reason. And it's not as simple as banning assault rifles like that. On a federal level, talk about theatric, hollow bullshit that only makes the culture war more enraged and inflamed. Or this recent subway strangling, chokehold murder. That's a symptom. That's an effect of the cause, not the cause itself. So everyone's protesting the subway administration. The subway is not the subway people are not the problem. Okay, you can't afford to ride on a subway where you have an armed guard that's also trained in de-escalation on there. You can't afford it unless you want to divide, make the inequality divide stretch even further. This is where we're at, people. And I got to talk to you like people because that's what it is. It's like church. We're at a point where you got to wake up. You got to feel what you need to feel to get us all together doing the shit that would be relatively easy to get done if we all, just for a moment, could achieve a meaningful and reasonable consensus. If everyone paid attention to the same thing at the same time for just one moment, and that thing that we're paying attention to, we had established, we had worked on, we have objectively refined the difficulties that would, manifest from it. We did our due diligence in establishing the plan. If that were worked out, then we just need to have everyone's attention for one moment, just one moment. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here, but there's just a lot to talk about. And when I first started this foray into the internet spheres, the thing that catalyzed me was the reading of the verdict in the impeachment trial, the second Trump impeachment trial that he didn't attend and had terrible lawyers in both iterations. That's what did it. That's what did it. When I heard those senators read out not guilty, I didn't know the characters. I didn't have the names for the rogues gallery, like Blackburn from Tennessee, and I didn't know, but I knew her voice. I was like, oh, how? Oh, it's such a sick mess. Not because their opinions are wrong, but because they know they're wrong, but they have to play that angle as party politics. It is a war of ideals. And we've not yet, on the right side, which is ironically the left side, we've not yet established what those ideals are, what the mechanics are, what the reasoning is, what the cause and the effect really are. We just go out and we police the effect. And we say, oh, can you believe it? These guns are killing all of these kids, and it's terrible, so we need to ban assault rifles. And all of the reasonable people out there not shooting people with their guns understand why that's retarded. Assault rifles in general are pretty low grade as far as, lethality goes and what's out there. We say, well, I want them all banned then. Well, good for you. That's fine. But that's not going to work. The Second Amendment is a real thing. The Second Amendment is not what people say. Blah, 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 blah. You're right about that. What does it mean? Why is well regulated right up in the front of it? And what does that mean? You can say, well, Section 2, Article blah, 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 Section 2 says blah, blah, blah. Now we're getting somewhere. If you can get the legal speak in front of us, we can make a better argument. All right? We don't need to avoid what's there. We don't need to avoid the facts. The inconvenient facts are our asset. Those are our asset. Instead of playing this culture war angle where we say, oh, that's right-wing thinking, or that's what do you call it? Like, advocate when you you're complicit to. That's like complicity in imperialism, man, or something. That Leninist taint, you got to cut that shit out. All the leftists, left-leaning, liberal, anybody, all that imperialist, anti-capitalist talk, it's not your idea. You didn't make it up. And neither did Second Thought on YouTube or whatever. I mean, that guy's smart, but that's the problem. He's probably Canadian, number one, which doesn't mean he's a bad person. I like Canadians. Some of my best friends are Canadians. But in this game of explaining the gritty details, the extrapolations, the abstractions, the implications, the causes, and the effects, in this game of punditry, in the crafting of quality arguments, in all of that stuff that we do, Canadians tend to have they have a skewed perspective on why it matters and what really matters. They have a reactive element that they carry that I can relate to. I understand it. I actually appreciate it. I watch a lot of the Canadian content creators, but it is true that it's like 60 or more % of these content creators are Canadian. They're from Canada, and that's fine. That's great. I'm glad people got to dip out on the Vietnam War was an example of, I don't think it's like capital and imperialism that explains the tragedy in our involvement there. But it is very much so East and West. And with Vietnam and Cambodia, this is where you can see all of the Eastern coalitions and relationships start to fray and contradict one another. And it's essential history. And I put up a quote on Twitter the other day, which I think is also an essential takeaway here. in Cambodia, where they fancied the French Revolution. They said, oh, we're revolutionaries. We're gonna make society for the real people, right? Like this rhetoric glosses over reality. And that's why I say the ideals and the policing of the effect is never good. It never works. There's no such thing as class consciousness. There just isn't. No, nobody has to wake up. People are what they are. You have to work with what's there. You have to look at what's there and you have to deal with it accordingly. But in Cambodia, where they fetishize the French Revolution, like they did in all these bullshit fucking, this is strongman shit. It's clever strongman shit. Pol Pot, and he says, keeping you is not a gain, losing you is not a loss. And they couldn't afford a guillotine, as they killed over 60% of their population. They couldn't afford a guillotine, so they used cinder blocks and concrete to smash you on the back of the neck. They killed a majority of their population. Why? Look it up. Look it up. You say, when you say look it up, that's so mean and arrogant. That's what this archetype does. Be like, but did you look it up? Can we talk about the thing itself? Because if you did, then I will kiss your beautiful, shiny ass. Real, true engagement, where we're not policing the effect. We're not going through a routine that we've, absorbed through proximity. We're dealing with the details. I don't mean the factoids and the empiric fluff. Talking about the holistic and functional explanation. The cause, the effect. Yes, that's work. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes patience. It takes focus. It takes argument. It takes thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It takes a lot to get a real refined, golden nugget of what is a functional, object. But we can do it. As I scanned the news today to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, Wagner Group threatening to pull out of Russia's employ, which is a ploy for more ammunition. That's it. That's all it is. They're not going anywhere. They're going to get more bullets. They just want to be able to kill as well as they are being killed. It's nothing to do with them being disillusioned with the plight. And the Allen, Texas massacre. I wanted to make sure I understood the basic events. But as I do this, I find out that someone else in Texas, Brownsville, rammed their car into a group of Mexican immigrants, killing, I think, the same amount of people that died in Allen. In Texas again. And I've been screaming at the top of my clickety-clackety lungs that Texas is the weak link in keeping us out of a civil war. That's the truth. Florida is part of that. But the population and sentiments and cultures that constitute Florida, those people are all put at odds with bad leaders. They're not representative. Whereas Texas is the division is much more real. If a fault line were to spread and a real culture war devolves into a civil war, Texas is the reason. President's bullet-ridden body in the street. Ride, Johnny, ride. Texas is an outrage when you pick up his head. Texas is the reason that the president's dead. Okay. There's plenty to talk about in the news. But there's nothing new to talk about at the same time. And that's maybe why I'm incredibly frustrated at this when I try to approach it in an objective way. I see some people have come in, and that's exciting. So since you're here, let's boot up what I'm advertising. Chillin with the Antichrist. Have fun. Examine. Consider. Objectify my reasoning and test it. Throw it back in my face. I don't want 10,000 followers. I don't want 1 million subscribers. I just need 12 people. I need 12 people to understand what I'm saying. Really understand what I'm saying. And I will provide you the same courtesy. Not just the courtesy. I want to understand where you're coming from too. I believe in gnosis. I believe that some people have it. Some people don't. You go through until you get it. Right? I mean reincarnation. Right? These are kind of new beliefs, but I've been very careful about expressing meaningful spiritual considerations until I had my hand firmly wrapped around it. I don't want 10,000 followers on Twitter. I fucking hate Twitter. Okay. Oh God, but I love people. And I love the idea of like a robust and dynamic, moving, breathing, organic mix of interests and perspectives. And on Twitter, what we find is when you say, this is bullshit, and they say, well, you're just mean. No one wants to talk to you because you're mean. Like what you have here is like this. You got Twitter in a chokehold. That's what it is. Like, behave. The groupthink requires these are the aesthetics. Everybody knows that you cannot discuss anything substantial on Twitter. And this took me too long to really learn. But if someone says, oh, historical, economic, whatever kind of argument, you just walk away. Because if someone really cared about this, they would bring it up on a better platform. They say, let's move this over somewhere where we can breathe and get into it and both make our cases and have it be moderated by like-minded or level-headed, clear-eyed individuals. Let's do what we can to make sure that we're both understood accurately, effectively, and that we can elevate the conversation and move forward together, or any number of these good things, these good priorities. You just can't do that on Twitter. It is not available. Not only is it not available, people will approach you as if it's a contest. And then, could you imagine thinking that was can you imagine? Does anyone want to tell him? Who wants to tell him? This like really passive aggressive assumption of groupthink consensus. That's all it is. Ratios was the most powerful weapon that anybody had on there. They're like, see, we disagree with you, but we won't address the merits of your exposition. So not only does nobody win when people approach that setting with that intent, they think they win because they're like, you're so dumb, blah, blah, blah. But it never gets resolved. It never gets resolved. So their ego and their sense of self-importance goes whoop, and the division and all this stuff, it just gets worse. It just keeps magnifying and amplifying and multiplying all the worst aspects. And now that we're approaching the 2024 election, I saw someone say, we're going to do it again, boo Trump, which is, I'm on the same page there. But they don't give a fuck. They really don't, unless there's something to rally against. And what they're rallying against, they don't understand. They don't understand that at all. They just know that these are the sides, and they want to find what they're expecting is there. Alienation is not something people handle well. They're just terrible, terrible, terrible at handling something different than what they expected. And they'll go to great lengths to make sure that it keeps out of their internal awareness. All right, so maybe we'll start with the Hasan thing. I think that's a good thing to watch, not only because the what's his name, Sam Hyde thing. This dovetails with the Sam Hyde incident. Not only that, well, we'll have plenty to talk about there. So let's make sure I got my headphones on here. I got to plug this John in. And it's very long. All of this stuff that I pulled up is very long. I'll see if I can put it on a higher speed. Excuse me. All right. And find the right scene here. All right. I think that's up. Yeah, there we go. All right, now it disappeared. Now it's back. How's everybody doing today? Rock and roll. Thanks for coming to the party, gang. All right, let me do just a little setup about the streaming deal. I'll try to be quick with this. There's 3 big streamers. All right, there's a lot more out there, but why are just 3? Why do only 3 matter? Well, because they represent a difference in energy, and although their political prescriptions are very closely aligned. As the personality cults have grown, the differences have also become, seemingly further apart. I think, as is the case as we get older and wiser and more experienced, you say, fuck the dumb, let's get to what matters, and let's squash that bullshit and focus on this, because what we can do is much greater than what we're doing. And I know that's cringe to be like, hopeful and idealistic. It's cringe when you do it wrong. Just like solidarity. Solidarity is cringe. It's cringe unless you do it right. Like that uncanny valley effect is a bitch. That's a real powerful thing. We're very, very, very sensitive to that. But we do want more, and we want cohesive, functional shit to do and talk about, and in a way that represents something other than the status quo, right? So when it comes to the streamers, and these guys in particular, I think we're at a new time. We're at a new chapter. We've entered the new discourse, and we're also approaching the 2024 election. Can you feel it? Can you feel it ramping up? Can you feel the particularity of our time? I can, and I think they can too. But they're able to be more careful and considerate, and they've also developed the appropriate defenses for personal attacks. And the thing that is really, really, really challenging for me to deal with is when someone says something that's half true, especially like a physical attack. They're like, like, you're ugly, or you're old, or something like that. It's, okay, that's half true, And I want to address it. I want to say, well, I understand why you think that. I want to deal with it because it's close enough to personal that it's got my attention, but it's not accurate. So I want to address it. Like when Trump says everything he says, he might be addressing an aspect of social concern that's legitimate. But the effect that he promises or the explanation of cause are wrong, completely wrong. And that pulls me into it. I want to correct the record. That's my thing. I'm obsessive and compulsive about micro differences in representation of reality. And these guys have all been through probably millions of interactions, maybe hundreds of thousands of interactions. And I would be very surprised if they were surprised anymore. Personalities repeat. That doesn't mean that people aren't interesting and important, but we all have the same emotions to varying degrees and whatnot, but we're all like genetically 99.96% the same. So, our differences get magnified as certain paths are progressed upon. And, we're getting ready to go into a new phase of public discourse that is actually significant. It's always been so, but now is the time. And this whole like Gen Z versus millennials versus blah, 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 blah. It's absolute and utter horseshit. Even online. Earlier, Noah Sierra was saying, except for maybe, and I couldn't think of one thing. I was going to say Roblox, but even on Roblox, you got people in their 40s. You got, what do they call them? Squeakers. You got, preteens. You got tweens. You got Gen Zers. You got, and even the media with like, I don't mean news media. I mean like entertainment media. They say we're going to crack the code on Gen Z. Like Gen Z, what do they think? Gen Z, blah, 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 blah. But we as actual humans are past that. That's bullshit. All right. They're trying to make a show or something that capitalizes on the demographic that they perceive as relevant now as Gen Z gets jobs and they get money. And now they're the relevant, they're the biggest part of the market. Of course, they want to apply familiarities that say, oh, this is speaking to me. All that's bullshit. Throw it all out. I mean, you go back, we talk about the 60s, man. Let's talk about the 60s when people had long hair and they had sandals and not the 1960s. I'm talking 0060 AD, motherfucker. You got people are people. The human machine is what it is. Free will is the exception, not the rule. That's not a good or bad thing. It just is. And I think that's the main takeaway before I start this video up. It's not a good or a bad thing. It may be, but that's not the consideration that we should concern ourselves with. It's what is, Don't worry about good or bad. Don't worry about if someone says this, does that mean that they're against this? Not yet. Let's establish what is first. And as we're dealing with complicated social, influential, representative, political personalities, my analysis might be more, it might be a little further out than is necessary. But either way, I believe that it serves as a medium or a vehicle to give us some utility on some real shit that's coming up. All right. Like to be aware in these meta ways is going to be good for us.
Everyone deserves praise for rehabilitation, no matter in which direction they're coming from and which direction they're going. 100%. All right, let's watch this. This is iDubbbz's latest video, which is a bit like a content cop. For those of you who don't know, iDubbbz threw the Creator Clash 2, and then there was a fighter that he pulled out from the Creator Clash. I don't really know the entire, I don't know all the people that are involved in it, but it's a bit like a content cop from what I understand, and the comments are already unhinged. Let's take a look. I support iDubbbz. I support Anissa. They're wonderful people.
And you were a pawn in some game of 4D chess, and I think you found out that iDubbbz and Anissa don't play games.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Brief update, I am healed from Creator Clash 2. It was a success. Alex Wasabi beat me up. He won his fight fair and square, and I have all the respect for Alex. He's a good competitor, and I have respect for all the other fighters on the Creator Clash card. And thank you to all the fans who came. It was an amazing event. I'm very happy, very emotional, awesome experience. I'll never forget it. Having said all that, you guys are here for the juice and the grease. So I'm gonna give you guys the grease and the juice, and that all has to do with Froggy Fresh. The reason I didn't address any of this sooner is because I was terrified of jeopardizing the success of the event because...
All right, two things. I'm going to try to, let's put it on a higher speed here. It's a little doodad there. 1.5, sound good? Lock it in. All right, there's that. There's something else I wanted to say. Oh, shit. It'll probably come back to me later. I like this iDubbbz guy. Again, this is all new. This is all new to me. It's probably new to more people than it is not. And that's maybe why I'm working so hard to keep pushing to try to get people involved and engaged in, our proprietary conversation, right? Like, oh, that's what it was. The juice, the grease. I love that. The juice and the grease. Yeah, like I don't want to waste time. I don't want to just pontificate and ruminate and extrapolate endlessly over just bullshit. I like literary flourish. I like, what do you call it? Alliteration. It's fun. Kooky clowns came clunkily, I like to play with words, and I get distracted. With whatever I'm doing. I try to enjoy my time, but the juice and the grease, man, I love that. The juice and the grease. Just two quick things. Okay, Hasan out of nowhere. If you don't know, I mean, if you're here, you probably know more about this than I do. Sam Hyde, which is a whole history. That people have compared me to him online, maybe jokingly, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just projecting and making that connection. But Sam Hyde famously said after winning, from what I understand, was like a legitimate UFC or MMA, like a real high level championship. And they say, what are you going to do now that you've won, Sam Hyde? And you're supposed to say, like, I'm going to Disney World. He says, Hasan Piker, I'm coming for you. I'm going to rip off your skin and wear it. And he's like supposed to be doing an Irish accent, but he's doing a Scottish one. And it's like, what the fuck? And Hasan, I don't know. At first I thought, he's being kind of like a bitch about this. But no. It's a crazy, the guy is unhinged in any way. Well, I'm a fan of unhinged, but he's unhinged from anything that's going to guarantee your safety. I don't think that people should avoid alienation as hard and constantly as they do, but You need a little certainty. You need to know that someone's not going to actually physically kill you. To establish some kind of, just a bare modicum of shared value. And that's what I'm looking for on Twitter or here or anything. I say, you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying. You could say, you're a jerk, you're a dick, you're overly critical, and you think you know this stuff when you don't have the experience. I would encourage you to test that assumption before you go walking away saying, this guy over here, he thinks he knows everything, as you purport to do the same without having actually tested. I think people just don't believe that type of confidence could line up with substance. And it also doesn't conform to the speech patterns that you're used to. So they say schizo posting or whatever. I'm like, well, what about it was disconnected? Because my understanding of schizo would mean it's disconnected from consensus reality. Or you have a break. You have a psychotic break, a disconnection from reality. And that could do all kinds of screwy things to your brain chemically. Once you have a hard hallucination, it keeps going. But anyways, that Sam Hyde thing, that was a real deal thing. The juice and the grease. I want it. I love it. I need it. Juice in the grease. Juice in the grease.
There are a lot more people involved in this than just Anissa and I didn't want to fuck it up for them. These are people that I really care about, and I felt like it would be very selfish if I was like, I understand public perception right now, guys. I'm just gonna make a quick 10-minute video, and I'll squash all the rumors, I'll squash all the beef. I have no idea what public perception for this video is going to be. That's why I'm doing it now, right? The event is now over with. I can risk it, I can air my grievances, and we can see where it goes.
La Roche-Posay Amphilio Sunscreen visibly reduces the appearance of sun damage.
Sorry, guys. I
Solid
should have
sunscreen with
recorded this ahead of
UVA
time and
UVB
put it up to
protection.
commercials.
I need to bring you guys up to speed on where I'm at as a person and as a content creator. My philosophy for a while was, well, people will figure it out through the videos I make. But the problem is the videos I make, I sort of avoid speaking from the heart. I'm just gonna focus on a thing, on a piece of content. I think I have bad associations with sharing my life on the internet. I'm like, no, that shouldn't be my thing. Like, leave that up to the vloggers. But I think it's important to share where I'm at, so none of what I'm talking about in this Froggy Fresh video feels like I'm being hypocritical or, I'm misleading you in any way. I think a lot of the content I've made has been irresponsible and misguided. And I think I've hurt a lot of people with the content I've made. Despite many people being entertained by it, I'm not trying to take that away from you. If you feel like you've learned important lessons or you have grown as a person because of the content I've made, I don't want to take that away from you.
I really want to comment on a lot of what iDubbbz is saying, because it's relevant and it has utility. Not only in a generic way, but in a personal way for, I would suspect, a lot of people. But we want to get to Hasan's opinions, which I mostly agree with. I commented on this video and I said, solid takes, good stuff. It's one of the only things I clocked in at less than 7 words or something, ever. And I wasn't lying, but there are some regarding the status quo. Okay, we'll get to those. I'm tempted to talk about iDubbbz. He's a dope dude. He's got it. He's got the gnosis.
Some good can come a lot of bad. And I think I've done a lot of bad. And, at the bare minimum, I've just put a lot of negativity out there in the world. And I'm working on not doing that. I plan on expanding on all of this in a further video. I think there's a lot of content from over the years and some behind the scenes that I'd love to share with you guys. I think it would give clarity to where I'm at.
So I've told you guys this basically. I alluded to it. I would go so far as to say one of the first ever instances of Ian talking about this with more clarity, even though he was clearly very uncomfortable, was literally sitting right next to me here last year or so. And I noticed it. I wanted to, cherish it. I wanted to celebrate it. But, of course, no matter what the fuck happens, there was hella people in this community that immediately were ready to eat his ass. And a lot of you also said, well, he should come out and say it. He briefly alluded to it time and time again throughout throughout the ego is wild. This is not about ego, my friend.
I thought eating someone's ass was a good thing in certain circles. But, okay, I didn't mean to take it there, especially on a Sunday. I apologize. Pretend I didn't say that. Quick, because we got a lot more to go through. What do I want to say? He said people jumped on his shit. Okay, that is the thing I'm talking about. That experience that allows you to see. You don't ignore it. That's what I'm having trouble with. Like, I'll just ignore my notifications on Twitter, or I'll look for reactions and I don't get any. So then I'm like, why the fuck am I going to look? Because when there is a reaction, it's some like some asshole coming out of left field being like, can you imagine thinking this? You know, one of those types of things, which already from the beginning has proved to not be worth your engagement. It will not bring anything more but validation for that individual, whether they deserve it or not, they don't. But in their minds, as they call you delusional, they'll, use that interaction to pump their own bullshit up. Hasan says, as soon as I said something, people jumped on my shit about this, that, and the other. You can't ignore what people say, but you don't want to feed that either. You want, just like, this is going to sound bad, but here's the deal. It's like training a dog, okay? I love my dog. I love dogs. I don't think I'm better or worse, but this is where the alpha thing matters. When you have an animal, no less a group of animals, and this works for people. South Park did a thing on it, and I think that they were right, but they used the wrong moral takeaway, and they're like, everything's a joke. Anyways, and maybe that was the right thing at that time, but now that analysis is no good. Cesar Millan is awesome. Cesar Millan is the fucking man. And he just went through a brutal divorce, apparently. Maybe it was a couple of years, right before COVID. And he has since, come back out into the public eye, and homeboy's got the gnosis. So dogs, as well as people, when there's no order, and I don't mean strong-fisted order, I mean organic, harmonious, progressive human order, okay? Space for humor and love and conflict if it's necessary, because there's the flip side of that coin where people are like, oh, I don't like the bad vibes. Just don't talk about things that make me feel uncomfortable. Now, I understand if someone's always talking about, Nazis and infant mortality or something like that. You're like, I don't want to talk about Nazis and infant mortality at dinner every night. I get that. All in balance. But that's what we're talking about. Everyone's trying to be the alpha because there are no effective ones in place. When you can place that certainty and security in the minds and hearts of your constituents, dogs or humans, then you will find, just like with material insecurity, when you alleviate that, you will find that people can then move on to higher pursuits of self and otherwise. But if uncertainty reigns, if there's no opportunity to get a little, I don't know the right word, like reciprocation of concern, or someone maybe like if you're hungry and mom brings you a plate of food, you're like, Mom, you're the best, that type of thing. Like when somebody knows you really well and they can anticipate your needs and you reciprocate that dynamic, that's good stuff. So we look for just some kind of certainty that other people are tuned into what we may need or not be so interested in having. You need an alpha. This idea that just class consciousness is going to solve things, or the idea that if we resolved material conditions that people wouldn't be at odds with one another, is absolutely ignorant of reality in all of its dynamic glory. But people coming after him saying, oh, you said something about this guy that did this thing and, he's terrible, blah, blah, blah. You look at it, but you don't let it change you unless there's something really there. So how do you sift through it in a way that it doesn't, because if someone says, don't think about shit. Don't picture it. Don't smell it. Don't think about the colors. What are you going to do? You're going to think about shit. Like that's another aspect of human nature. So you may be a self-disciplined and harmoniously controlled individual, but we are still subject to influence, whether we like it or not. And therefore you cannot completely objectify, the value of feedback. Now, the cultural and social differences that have come from Vosh, Destiny, Hasan, they start here, but now they were like way out here. Little differences in what would otherwise be parallel lines create massive differences further down. And that's where we are now. And these things seem so different, yet it's an aggrievement with the status quo, a righteous and just one. But Hasan strikes me as less of an intellectual as much as like a good guy. Like he's a well-rounded, honest guy, and he's trying to like do right by what's possible. Good examples, bad examples. You use them to shape your character. And when you're dealing with a community that you rely on for feedback and also that you're representing as well as influencing, that's a tough line to walk, I would imagine. And, but that sensitivity, I think Hasan is beginning to gain some quality mastery over. I think that he is able to exercise perspective to, like the analogy of a sieve, like you're sifting through and you want the good stuff to catch and the bad stuff to fall out. I think the way you do that is by how you explain human nature. Again, what we expect. Sometimes we see when it's not that thing. So it's not as easy as putting one rule into place and now you see everything perfectly clear. But if you have a good system of analysis and you have buckets organized where you've got like, here's the rage bucket, here's the horny bucket, here's these different things that you're going to find in people. Now they might correlate with like age or gender and some of these things, but those conversations are now, it's important that we dump the bucket on the table and try to take care of what actually affects people, which it is. And that's another conversation.
My friend, I don't know why am I responding to a fucking random weirdo? Jesus Christ, I can't stop myself. Jesus Christ. Anyway, some people were saying like, well, it would be nice to hear from him openly, okay? And I think that it's brave and cool of him to come out and say it. Regardless, though, no matter what happens, I'm sure the internet will then use it.
But that's really the reason I want to put this on. He says, and I agree. I give a thumbs up. He's like, why am I responding to a random weirdo? Okay, maybe I'm sensitive because that's the treatment I get. But when you make that, when that's the system you're going to apply, when that's the reaction that you feel is, that's the rule that you're going to follow when you're in the weeds of being affected and influenced by new stimuli. You say, what is the system that I can apply to get me out of this alienation? I'm responding to some random weirdo. I don't know what the codes or names or badges are, but I didn't see if the person is a member. I would not be a member after that. If somebody like random weirdo, we're all subjected to that Cambodian post-communist, end of communism thing. Keeping you is not a gain. Losing you is not a loss. That's how people act online. You all act like that. You're like, what made you think you were special? What made you think you mattered? Oh, they're so busy. Why would they notice you? Well, that may be true, but this is a parasocial with positive implications, okay? This is not parasocial in a way. It's parasocial with an ambition to be truly social. All right. Now, some people are imbalanced, so they want more than they deserve, or they're going to take all your attention. But, the alpha, the hierarchies, which I'm not exactly for hierarchies, but they're there. So let's explain it instead of I'm making a descriptive, not a normative statement when I'm talking about alphas in this regard, in this situation. Because once you say, I'm an alpha and this is what I'm doing, then other assholes will be attracted to that archetype and want to fulfill that themselves because there's money and there's attention and there's influence and there's things that they want because they don't have, Yeah, you got to look at what's there. And I think Hasan is quick to dismiss things that don't, but that guy might have deserved it. And that's why I put this on. It's really gray and funky area to get a clear read on things. How do you get a clear read on disagreement when it's so commonly found out of like people are mentally and emotionally undisciplined and they've been given an example where it's like react. Register your virtue signal about what side you're on the culture war and how the purity testing, which would be okay if you had your objective your manifesto, your framework in place, and there was a consensus achieved. But there isn't, not even close. We're still like liberals and leftists hate each other when they're on the same side. That might be a controversial thing. Anyone want to argue about that? That they're not on the same side? You say, liberals and leftists Oh my God. Barf. Anyways, I guess this is running behind. So I'll see if comments pop up in a few minutes from that. And let's just get back to this. All right. I'm sorry for talking so much. Bam.
This is an opportunity to shit on him further.
Inspired, where beauty is inspired from within. We are dedicated to providing you with.
And to Ian, I have to say, listen, stay strong. Don't listen to what people who you perceive are going to welcome you with open arms. When they don't welcome you with open arms, don't be shocked. It takes time. You're not doing this because they accept you or they're going to like you or they're going to be friends with you. You're doing this because, it's the right thing to do. Okay? For those of you who don't know, if you don't have an understanding of iDubbbz, maybe you're in this community, maybe you were a fan of iDubbbz and you knew already, iDubbbz and Ethan Klein, my podcast co-host on the Leftovers podcast, did a lot of stuff back in the day. They were very edgy, okay? Ethan, not as much as iDubbbz. iDubbbz especially was way more edgy. I didn't know enough about him back then. I didn't really see any of the content cops even. I watched some of them recently. Some of them actually do hold up, by the way. Like, actually, a lot of them hold up, with the exception of slurs. iDubbbz had a very libertarian attitude towards slurs. He was the you should be able to say anything and everything type person. And all of those words actually, all of those videos exist on the internet. He hasn't deleted any of them, and I don't think he should. But it doesn't even matter. Even if he did, no matter what happens, everyone will always bring those up. Yeah. And the irony is, yes, the sad part is they really hold up so well, except the slurs. Exactly. If you watch old iDubbbz content.
Okay, check it out. That's a lot of inconsistency there, which is fine. That's human. I think people say, oh, that was a criticism and there's a half truth in there, or maybe it's all the way true, but I don't want to recognize it because it makes me feel alienated. So I'm going to resist, push on it, and maybe even if you're the right personality type, you're going to shit on it too, and throw a punch while you run as well. We need role models. As cheesy as that sounds, I'm not saying I'm a role model. Okay, there's a difference between role model and other things. I'll try to leave myself out of this. With difficult, in-between, gray area, social, like you're trying to figure out a good system to follow, you're going to be wrong a lot before you're right. And the right that you may land on may become threatened by a new generation's mind frame or situation or dynamic. I feel for Hasan. I don't think he's incredibly introspective, but I think he's legitimately friendly, and that's sometimes what people need. And it shows in the audience. The difference in the audience magnifies, the proprietary distinctions between the three that we're talking about here. He says, I don't think they should take it down. I think it's good, but he also has a problem with it. He's one of the blah, blah, blah. He's someone, the assessment is it's not just that he's racist. He has a very libertarian point of view, and that's the way it makes sense. And he can still look at iDubbbz as someone worth praising. But we have not demonstrated a consistent take there. That's very disjointed, and people on the right see that very clearly, and it's just bullets in the chamber for when they go out on the culture war battlefield. I don't really have a prescriptive advice to offer in that regard, but it is problematic. Free speech absolutism might not necessarily be what we're defending. It might be more that this is a reaction to something that is too stuffy or stupid. I mean, there might be a more artistic explanation. There may be. But I also understand we're in a world where there's ironic entertainment, there's post-ironic, ironic entertainment, there's absurdist irony, blah, blah, blah. There's all these different things where it's like, I don't know what's going on. And Sam Hyde, and by extension, iDubbbz now at this point, well, not by extension, but in addition, iDubbbz, makes us wonder what's okay or not. Dave Chappelle, is a perfect example of having criticisms about stuffy culture war virtue signaling and its effects versus, intent and content of character. But, this is, you guys get, this is like deep, heavy stuff. This is not me splitting hairs or schizo posting or rambling. This is influence for tens of thousands, if not millions of people across the world. I mean, if you look at a map of where these viewers are for these three streamers alone, Forget their orbiters and all the variations, shades, and tones that they come in. Just these three. The type of influence. I don't see these guys on Twitter anymore. I don't see Destiny, Hasan, or Vosh on Twitter. Maybe they're there, and I'm just not seeing them on my timeline, but I respect the fuck out of that. Twitter just sucks energy out, and it's much better to just do your thing. Just like take it as it comes and show people the process that you're going through so that they have an understanding and you can both influence each other to have a better system when you come across difficult things like is this slur put out there as like to trigger overly sensitive conservatives, or is this, the reasoning is important, but when we can't figure it out, sometimes we'll just, put it in that we're like, oh, it's on the right. Or sometimes we'll make an excuse for it because we feel like that character, but it was an error because they really are like Sam Hyde, and they weren't joking. They really are a monster. It's not easy. It's deep, and I think it's worth giving this type of consideration to. This is the last day I'm going to do this, so bear with me.
Right now, today, with the exception of like his like weird libertarian perspective on saying slurs, they're pretty fucking solid. Like they are almost entirely, completely fucking solid, top to bottom. They hold up. They hold up real well. So we always had like a decent fundamental that he worked off of, but then also he did go, he did go buck wild with a lot of his other takes. Okay. Problem is, it was also Flipper slurs top to bottom. Anyway, but for that reason, I know exactly how people operate in leftist spaces. No one is going to welcome him with open arms. They're going to say, oh, white guy, bottom of the barrel. Like, oh, sorry for making millions of dollars saying slurs. Like, I can already see the fucking negative associations that he's going to have.
Lefty
and the negative shit that he's going to eat.
I need to say something about this. What the fuck is a lefty space? Where? How? I don't know if you guys caught my Canadian commentary, but I love Canadians. What they've contributed to pop culture alone gives me cause to feel very friendly towards Canadians. If you're from Canada, I love you. But when it comes to content creators online, there is a disproportionate number of Canadian content creators. And because politics and the culture war are both worth being upset and triggered and reactive over, as well as something that affects more than just Americans, I understand why they would deal in that type of content. I get it. I don't begrudge that. I begrudge, like I said about other things, when things aren't all the way true, but the intensity is there nonetheless. In fact, there's more intensity than there is understanding. And it's an imitation and emulation of something that's already there. Content creators are one thing. That's not illustrative of a space. What is a lefty space? Is it the YouTube chat on the Majority Report? Is it Twitter? Is it Hasan's Twitch page? No, there's no such thing. Not only is there no such thing as a leftist space, or there's no such thing as a left. There's no left, which is my main argument. Before I came into any of this, that argument was there. It is held up. It has gotten even more concrete. People on the right, which is a thing, they say the leftists are always, you hate how lefties are blah, blah, blah. And let me ask you something. If you fancy yourself as someone who's left leaning, are they right when they say that the leftists do this and that? No, they're not. They're not right. The anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, immigration issues, anything that is part of the culture war, the right is wrong on. They're just wrong. But because they're so wrong, you see this intense barrage of reactions that conform to some kind of tapestry pattern. I don't know. And you say, that's the left. We damn well know that's not the left. Like, if they think that people who vote for Biden are the left. There's no such thing as the left. There could be, there should be, there has been. But when you refer to what has been as the left, as something you would, then guess what? Welcome to the right wing, because that's tradition-based. That's from the past. Left literally means new. It means against the status quo. It means let's do what we can for the real purpose of our lives here as human bodies, brains, and souls. What is the ideal? What are these inalienable God-given rights that make us so damn special as individuals? Well, something, whereas the East and their politics have said, it's not the individual, it's the group. And I say, fuck that. And people on the left, which is not such a thing, have incorporated that sentiment where they're like, what makes you think you're so special? Or is it anything that even hints at masculine, authoritative, and I'm not saying aggravated. Authoritative can be very calm. If it even smacks of anything that's not culture war left, then it's on the right. And this is a mess. So I don't mean to jump on Hasan shit about this, but where the fuck is a leftist space? There are none. None. That's why real people will converge around these personalities. I mean, it's a cult of personality, but I like them too. It's more just about the process than it is about the politics. The politics could change. So if that's what left is, then I guess I have to admit there are many of them. But in regards to politics and collectivization and consistency of values and policy prescriptions, no, not even close. Not even close. There's more variety because we're thinking on the left. We deconstruct and we criticize so that we can fortify the things that we end up championing, ideally. But there's a lot of strings to pull to tie that together that we're just not. I don't even know if it's laced up, to tell you the truth, but it could be.
Unfortunately, leftists are like, no growth. We're in a permanent no growth. You did a no growth. We don't want you to grow. We don't believe that you have the capacity to like genuinely, personally keep growing, even though you could have just been a slur machine and a monster and become even more reactionary and probably made more money by doing so. But instead chose personally through your own growth to not do that. And also, deliver a seismic shift in your own content and have like your entire fan base turn on you and bully you and mercilessly attack you and your family members. So, I hope that people don't do that. I hope that at least people in this community don't do that, because I think we should always be significantly more welcoming to people that, have changed their attitudes, have changed their minds, and are also actively advocating against their past self. Please do not behave like fucking unhinged radlibs. I hate that shit so much. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you when you behave like that. Anyway, let's continue.
But in this...
That is very compelling commentary. I mean, not personally. I'm not saying, oh, he's right. He's wrong. But he is right about his community and saying, I hope that we don't do that here. And he's showing them how to grow. He's taking their nuanced and difficult impressions and trying to set an example to follow so that the effect of that cause is conducive to our greater ideals and virtues. Are you following me? I know that's a lot of I have a way of being cumbersome in my speech, but it's just how I am. Sorry. I mean, I can get down and be like basic too. I would rather be elegant and eloquent, but as this stuff is so complicated and I don't see a great deal of agreement in the content sphere. I see it on the ground. I see it anytime I talk to someone in real life. This is real life. Online content is real life. That's another distinction I think we need to be clear about. It's dismissive and reductive to say it's not real life. It's real life. It affects people in ways much more starkly than the actual physical, immediate world in many ways. Yeah, that's the commentary. The iDubbbz stuff I think is really interesting, and that's the other reason I'm using this, because I got my eye on him.
This video, that's probably about all I can say on any of it. I don't want to detract from what the focus is, and the focus is kicking Froggy fresh from the Creator Clash card. The main reason Froggy was kicked from the card was for collaborating with Sam Hyde. And for anyone who's been following the story, that's fairly obvious. Froggy has explained his side of the story multiple times, and unfortunately, he's been perpetuating a narrative that it's about OnlyFans.
White boys don't deserve praise for realizing racism and shit is bad. Once again, I will remind everybody, this is the first and last time I'm going to say this. I think I've decided my policy is going to be I'm going to ban people for the duration of the content if they're making derailing remarks on purpose. And then, they can come in and chirp again if they're still bored and want my attention. But white boys, first of all, they do deserve that, okay? Everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves praise for rehabilitation, no matter in which direction they're coming from and which direction they're going, okay? 100%. I disagree with you, okay? Even if their intent is not for, getting praise from you and others like you, and this isn't even the point of the fucking video, by the way, we're going to get to the video in a second. It doesn't matter. You're wrong. I think I have a better perspective on this than you do. You can say that it's because I'm white myself and I'm privileged myself, but it doesn't change the reality. I have a goal to change people's attitudes, change people's minds. I think I've done it successfully for a lot of people in this community as well, and I care about that. No, you're wrong. I do think that people do deserve praise for changing, and here's why. Okay, not that it's necessary, but it's a good practice to uphold if you are a progressive person yourself. Why? Because we acknowledge all the time on the left that people are products of their social conditioning. Okay, people are products of their material conditions. They are learning this kind of behavior from every facet of existence, whether it be popular culture, whether it be the school that you go to, whether it be your parents. You're learning attitudes that are adjacent to or accepting of white supremacy.
I'm Steven Singer, the I Hate Steven Singer guy. Roses are a nice gift, but they end up in the trash a week later. I have the perfect gift. My famous 24-karat gold dip roses that last a lifetime. See for yourself at IHateStevenSinger.com.
Everything you
Sorry
do
about that. I knew.
will be evaluated.
You know, the first time I watched this, there was no
Not just the instructions.
commercials
tests.
like this.
And this is such
Sorry,
a
guys.
pervasive attitude, and it's so strong that even black people growing up in the United States of America that go to schools that have a no CRT policy or a profoundly whitewashed understanding of American history still end up developing certain perspectives that are anti-black. It's just the truth, okay? Read any black
Talking about
scholar on the
racism?
matter, and you will come to that same conclusion. Don't take my word for it. What the fuck do I know? I'm a white guy, okay? But if we all recognize that we are a product of our environment, we are a product of our material conditions, then we have to be a little bit more accepting of people who were products.
That's ML bullshit. I'm glad I caught. I'm glad the commercial came up, or else I would have missed this. The material conditions argument is right in a limited capacity. We are not only material. Hasan knows this. He knows this. He strikes me as someone that has a little bit of ethical, spiritual consideration. I don't mean hokey like, you must become one with your... In fact, he might be more like that. He might be more like yoga and spiritual than religious. But he at least has an understanding that... I mean, he just got a dog, so he would definitely know this, that we are not just material. Okay, so the material argument is that as long as you do this, then the other things will elevate after. It's kind of like an analog... never mind. It's just one part of what we are. It's just one part. And the balance there is very complicated. That is a very complex economic argument that has not been had on the left. I think Destiny has kind of tried to get there. Vaush is, from my perspective, it seems like Vaush is squaring his economic, historical, and political takes. Because if you're paying attention and you're really compelled by this stuff, it's constantly shifting. It's constantly changing. And as tempting as it is to just use what works, it's not about that. It's about, what is and what should be in effect and what, we want more for ourselves. We want better for ourselves. Let's talk about more. Let's talk about better. Those things are a mix of many different factors, not just material. Not just material. There's no way to square that argument with reality. None. It's a good argument. It explains some things. It's a really good argument. And it explains a lot of what maybe politicians and municipal workers should be concerned with, what their priorities should include mostly. But it's a basic take, and it's wrong. I think that's him picking up on what other people have told him. This is where the audience affects and influences him, as well it should to some extent. But he's not really like assertive and authoritative like that, because that's right-wing alpha shit. He is an alpha. The motherfucker's like 7 feet tall and muscular as fuck. Like, I think he would annihilate Sam Hyde if he trained for a year, but that's not what we do. That's not what we do. We don't need more fighting and violence and machismo. There's enough of that. There's enough of that. And we don't want to just talk to men. We don't just talk to like macho dudes. We don't, there's a problem. There's a radicalism pipeline that was super in effect like 2014, 2016, I think 4chan, stuff like that. That was real. It's not anymore. It is real, but not in those places, in those ways. There's a lot more people on Earth than just men. I don't know if you know this. I hear like half of them aren't. Okay. this is something, if it is a material, if his priority are improving material conditions, then I understand why he would veer away from like macho, assertive, principles. But I just want to register that. If you disagree, DM me on Twitter. I'll give you my email address, something like that, and we can talk, whether publicly or privately. I want to have an honest conversation. I don't want to waste people's time. I want to actually get at the gray space and the glue that sits between this stuff that interferes with us taking good ideas, virtues, and values and expanding that into the public sphere. So that when we try, little bits get out there, people on the right or normies, the status quo, power, capital, I'll go with that argument for now, will look at that and they'll say, oh, that's not going to do good for our cause. So let's try to break it up or pay it off or do whatever they can to make sure it doesn't threaten, the power differential that is in effect now. So if we want to change the power differential, you know what I'm saying, right? I hope so. It needs to be more effective. It needs to be packaged like an assassin. It's got to have its shit in order, packed up tight. You reach for it without having to look. That type of stuff. We gotta refine what the plan is, practice, and then implement and execute. And we're kind of doing stuff wrong.
Products of their social conditioning and then overcame it. Okay? It's just how it is. This shit doesn't happen because people are good or bad. This shit, and some might be bad and some might be good, but ultimately it happens because this is what they learn. Okay? No baby is like fucking born as a racist ass baby. Okay? Become an adult and you learn about certain concepts. I think certain concepts are normal. Like the top of the hour ad break. Here is the 3-minute ad break now. Anyway, let's continue.
Or that it's about Anissa's mom, and that's extremely deceptive because he knows why he was kicked from the card. The one indication I gave him was Sam Hyde, and I wasn't unclear about that. Anyone who's mentioning the fact that Harley trained with Sam Hyde for the year previous, that was before Sam was saying this about my wife.
I don't think so, Anissa. Bitch. Ho. Fucking Anissa. What an ugly piece of shit. But look how beat she is. Oh, nice jack-o'-lantern teeth. I can't wait to see what she looks like when she's 32. Her teeth look like a pumpkin head. It's the Anissa Joma hole stretcher. I'm sending this to Anissa's OnlyFans. It goes directly to charity. Yeah. Everybody hates him and his wife's a slut.
So yeah, now that this
that shit
is on the daily insulting my wife, I think it's pretty fair to not want to associate with him.
Cut
in any way.
and dried.
We did ban Sam.
Only problem is the timeline of this clip. Supposedly these were all after Froggy had gotten open, dropped from the card. First and foremost, come on. Look, I didn't know what that fucking dude was. The dude that they showed on screen, Sam Hyde. I don't know who the fuck he was until I learned about it. And everything I learned about it, I didn't really like. Okay? Let's be fucking real. Motherfucker's a Nazi. That's it. Like, yeah, there's more than just, what iDubbbz is stating here. Okay? Not only a Nazi, but a gross one, too, on top of that. So, come on now. Come on. If someone doesn't want their charity event to be associated with a person like that, I think they have a pretty solid reason to not do that. Okay? That's it.
Arguably.
Everything I've learned about him has been against my will. Yeah, 100%. Washed, completely irrelevant, desperate for clout and attention. It is what it is, okay? What are you going to do? There's a lot of motherfuckers out here that do this kind of thing. I wish everyone of his fan base, I wish they will better themselves, hit the gym, maybe learn grooming, like figure out how to groom their face and get a better haircut, shower a little bit. And then maybe they can be like normal, civilized, adult, productive members of society. That's it.
From the first event, so it's not as
Fuck
if he's confused
that!
about fans and all this.
Fuck
I
that!
don't like him.
There's a video of Sam.
Okay, that's the main reason I put this shit on. That is the main reason I put this shit on. That is the most normie, basic, status quo confirming, complicity bullshit ever. Now, I get it. I get why people make that association. They say people get like all up in their heads and they get funky and they nasty and they don't care. If you're an artist, you get that it doesn't matter. Also, it really doesn't matter either. As long as you're showering. I mean, I'm not talking about my hygiene prowess. All right? That's not what we're talking about. If you're really curious, ask me. I'll tell you what my routine is. But in general, if you're an artist or a musician or a poet or anything, the pattern might emerge that you're not super into grooming yourself because it doesn't fucking matter. And even on like an empiric, medical, physiological level, Adam ruins everything. Adam had a great episode about this very thing. It's actually bad to shower every day. Like it strips oils and there's a biome on our dermis, macrobes and microbes and things that keep processing dead skin cells and hairs and stuff like that. Our bodies are amazingly complicated. Homeostasis is whoa. Homeostasis is whoa. You can quote me on that. But this is an expectation of, I don't even know. What's the point? What's the purpose? What does that do as far as like cluing people into what's actually there or what can be done? It's basic and it's generic because the thinking goes like this, that if you start doing one thing a day, just make your bed. Again, it's Jordan Peterson talk. Hasan, come on, bro. It's Jordan Peterson talk. That's literally what it is. So if you feel so strongly about Jordan Peterson, at this point, there's a lot more to look at. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. It's just a crying shame that all of this out here is blah, 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 culture war. There's plenty of reason. Climate change, blah, 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 is false. There's plenty of reasons to say, Peterson, man, you lost the plot. You're a bit dodgy in the head there, right? Like anything you want to say about Peterson that criticism will land squarely on him. But he was an intellectual. He was a public intellectual, and he did have some merits as far as being an academic and a professor goes. He served a purpose. I disagreed with him, but I also didn't really care about him either. Point being that this thinking goes like this. If you start doing one thing a day, you just get out of bed, make your bed, that will progress into more things. And as Peterson also says, we're up against nature. So man is not meant to be static and in a routine. You're not meant to just be kind and sweet and nice. We have to beat back the thorns, and we've got to cut down the trees and build the houses and plow the fields and make the roads. And we're constantly fighting against nature. That means malaria. That means all kinds of things that we are up against. And you can't forget, because we live in these nice little, like pasteurized, homogenized environments. Everything is, like that it's easy to forget that our natural element is in conflict. It attaches to a much more significant and relevant conversation. Much, much more. And as a public personality and we got two very quality people on stream right now, like hanging out with us, right? Yeah, we got two. That's me. That's three altogether, which is like based AF. Okay. But this motherfucker's got how many people all the time? All he needs to do is like fart. And there's 2,000 people that are like, oh my God, can you believe people are going to love it on one side and they're going to hate it on the other? And in totality, we're talking lots of people. And what is he saying? He's saying, well, I don't want to shit on the man. That's what I'm tempted to do. I think that's what I did out the gate, and I alienated a lot of people that could be here with us right now because they think that I pointed out that we had two people here and someone left. Well, I guess it's just me and you, my friend. Two quality people in the whole wide world. Anyhow, what is the purpose of being part of one of these communities? I'll tell you what it is. It's just like, it's a friend that you want to think cares about you. That it's familiar stuff. You followed the conversation the day before. You know what these people are talking about. It gives you some certainty in a world filled with chaos and noise, particularly as it applies to politics and the culture war in the modern age. As 8 people are mowed down in a mall somewhere, what do we say about that? What do we do about that? What are the prescriptions that we have lined up, and who's been saying this for a while that we can point to and say, they've been saying that for a while? We should be able to pick that up kind of like by proxy from being in these communities. I'm really mad at that person for logging off when I This world is just wonderful. It's just wonderful. Why do we do what we do? Can you tell me? Can anybody tell me? Like, nah, bro, we're just doing. Everything's fine. It is not fine. It is not fine. So when you can point out why it's not fine, who's representing what argument where their influence connects, like what these big entertainment companies want. They want to crack the Gen Z code. They want to make entertainment for Gen Z that's specifically for Gen Z, which is not a thing. It's not a thing. The generational thing is like every 3 years there's a new generation. What the fuck? Like, we're all genetically the same. The emotions, the pleasure seeking, the pain avoiding, it's the same. You say, well, Gen Z is up against these new problems. No, they're not. No, they're not. The status quo that came a couple generations before was a blip on the screen. That was not the norm. That was something that the boomer generation got to appreciate. And just like they would say, well, it's not necessarily that you get a job as much as you're out there trying. Did you fill out any applications? It's like, if the goal is to get a job, let's get the job, not just go through the motions. What the fuck? Well, someone's going to say, but you're getting experience. You're getting experience filling resumes out. You're perfecting your pattern. You're getting experience and networking, and who knows what could come out of that. I mean, we are really good at making up bullshit reasons for having wasted our time. Everything happens for a reason. Who knows? Maybe one person out there, blah, 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 that one is a good argument, especially relevant right now. When someone gets it, that's the purpose of all this. If somebody gets it, does somebody get it? Anybody. So when somebody like Sam Cedar is great at this, Vosh is getting much, he was good at it, but he's getting better at finding that synthesis that matters now in the way that it needs to. It'd be great if we had people of color and something other than a white man, like, in these positions of influence. But they're not there. I wish that weren't the case, but they're not there. So what am I supposed to do? Just sit back and wait for them? No, because then what happens, the media looks at them and they say, let's get mixed race girls in all of our commercials, because guess what? You're the new poster child for progress. We're going to use all that. And that's what we're dealing with. We're just dealing with people using what they think will produce predictable results. And then there's all of us just being affected by it. And trying to describe it. So when somebody can describe it, there's utility in that. But I don't see very many people describing things very well. I see Sam Cedar. He's fantastic at that. Destiny is missing the emotion. Well, maybe that's a protective element for him. I don't know. I would love to talk to Destiny, not because he's famous, not because of any other reason than just he is someone that thinks. And he thinks all the time. And he's got the experience to actually be compelled by the thoughts that he has. That is rare. It is so rare. So when someone who gets it, here's someone that gets it, we want to play together, at least ideally. But because there's this power differential, and because there's expectations and norms around social, appearances, like, don't schizo post, stuff like that. I'm like, did you read what I wrote? It's a lot. Why is I going to read it? Well, then how do you know it's not the most brilliant thing ever? Well, because you're stupid. How do you know that? Because I say so. And it's this circular logic. It's like, I just want to engage with someone that is not going in circles. I get that people need their vibes and they need their comfort zones and they want to kick back and chill and blah, 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 blah. But that's not a hard thing to do. You don't need anybody else's opinion to do that. Now, the void that needs to be filled, exacerbated by the pandemic, LAMF, in very serious ways. And we talk about everybody being on the same page for one moment. That was the one thing we got, but it wasn't the moment we wanted or needed. It made everything worse. People that were up in their head got way more up in their head. People that had, anyways, lots of material to get through. I think it just bugs the fuck out of me. I think it was Hasan who was watching. And when I started talking shit, he's like, I knew he was an asshole. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But he has so much influence. I just want to see it produce the result that I think he himself would champion. And when it comes to talking to Vosh or Destiny, that's the reason. It's because, I would, as Sam Cedar said about talking to Prager, Prager was like, you'd just be doing this for, the acolytes or whatever. He's like, I'll wear a bag over my head and just put a voice changer on. The same thing. It's about the interaction. It's about the effect of that influence and either helping to refine it or correct it. I see everybody, like Hasan alluded to that, I see everybody wanting to do that. Everyone wants to be the alpha. Everyone on the left especially, again, there's no such thing, will say, break down, deconstruct. Look at this. This is stupid. That doesn't work. This is contrary to popular opinion. This is what they say, but this is the reality. There's all this dissection of pretension and predicate and whatnot. Predicate? Sorry. I want to see traction. I want to see the people that have the influence just move us, because we have an election right on the horizon. This is about to get really, really intense. We've got a war in Europe, a real war. It's a real war this time. It is. And the global economic situation is, oh man, the US dollar is way over leveraged. The people that have money and power and influence and the people who own what would be called the means of production in 1873 or whatever, which is not the right terminology to use now if your interest is to democratize possibility, power, and resources. I just want to see it work. I want to see it work. And I'd wear a bag on my head. I don't care. I don't want to be out here. Not like this. Not with everyone shitting on me and fucking hating me and alienating me all the time. It's lonely and weird. It's weird. It is constantly alienating. And I get that I'm a bit much and that I'm intense and stuff, but I'm not anywhere near as inconsistent as people expect. I've just got a holistic view, so there's a lot to go through. And the more we get it out on the table, the easier it'll be to say, refer to bucket A. And we could get on to vibes and chilling. But it's really tough to do that when the house is on fire, And everyone's like, hey, man, I'm not, because of the spread, the financial inequality in this world. I'm not. I'm in my fireproof room with my, 8 flat screen TVs and my, feed, blah, 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 blah. Some people literally don't have to worry about the same things that other people literally cannot escape from. And it shows. You can only talk to people that already agree with you. And then even in that case, they're not agreeing with you. They're agreeing with themselves and wanting you to confirm or validate that. I don't know if that's inconsistent. No, it's not inconsistent. I'm explaining and describing things that actually are. I don't want credit for that. I want credit for going up against something that's uncomfortable and difficult for good reasons. I don't want 10,000 followers. I just want 12 or 5 or 3 or something that people say, I get it too. And I'm like, oh, I could take the intensity down just one notch. But the people that have all of that influence, and they have the closest thing to like a personal, something that is affected by their speech and reasoning. I don't want to talk to everyone in the audience. I don't have time for that. I got kids. I'm old. I don't have time for that. The 2024 election's right around the corner. I don't have time. None of us have time for it. You say, well, you're just like a crazy religious guy. That's not. You can say what you want to make it convenient for you to not have to look at what I'm presenting. But the truth is, I'm not even bringing anything other than like the music and art that I make. Like, I'm not bringing anything from my personal life. I'm just holding up things that are already there and saying, is this true or not? Do you see this or not? And with people like Hasan, which is like him and his community. I mean, not people like, he is one of a kind. He's unique. This whole he's closer to Jordan Peterson than he realizes. He values the social cohesion and the quality of character around him and things like that. The political prescriptions he really just inherited from his uncle, and then it got updated by the whole generational illusion online. I'm not saying he's stupid, because we all fall for these. They're liabilities in our reasoning. This world is an element of corruptive qualities. Entropy is always kicking us away from what was once whole. But it bothers me when people in positions of influence don't share that influence with people that can demonstrate concern and compassion relative to those priorities, those values, those shared values. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting. It makes me upset. It makes me frustrated. And I don't think I'm the only one that's frustrated, but I do seem to be the only one on the left that's bringing this energy. People, or at least what I would like to see as a left form. I don't want to rule that. I don't want it to be ruled. I want people to understand how to think, not what exactly to think. It's how to think. Okay? People just feel like, just put it in front of me. I want it to work. Okay, but when something goes wrong, can you, well, I don't put the, it's like when you're a telemarketer. I need to have the rebuttal up on the screen. You can't make the argument yourself? Then what business do you have to be so invested in this culture war? Well, because blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you would not think that if you had not been instructed to think that. It is not affecting you immediately. And even if it were, you would assign some local comparison explanation rather than a holistic, functional, or shareable perspective. So that's enough talking for now.
If any pedophilia, yeah, I don't care. I don't even want to get into it. I've seen it. I've seen some of the stuff. Like I said, it's not even worth addressing. Okay, it's just like there are certain people that I regularly refuse to talk about, and the reason why I don't talk about it is because they're in the muck. You know what I mean? They're in such a fucking low point that like any kind of mention of these people basically ends up giving them an opportunity to have more prominence. Right? It's like the I'm going to use this term now, the Nicolas Fuentes paradigm. For a very long time, I refused to talk about Nicolas Fuentes because he's a fucking Nazi. You know what I mean? And not only is he a Nazi, but not a very relevant one. And until the Kanye West thing, like basically skyrocketed him back into like mainstream public consciousness, I didn't want to give him any clout whatsoever. Right? You don't need to know about every fucking Nazi that's like in every corner of the internet.
I don't know why he keeps doing that. He was on the January 6th trials.
They're just trying to make a name for themselves regardless.
On the big screen.
Okay?
So
that's it.
I appreciate his.
Those were the reasons. And I think it's perfectly valid to not want to give them any additional clout.
And Froggy knows that. Froggy knows that I don't like him. Of course. That's why he was banned. You know, none of this is like news to Froggy. Froggy knew all of this going into it.
Earning your degree online is closer than you think. Apply today to Purdue University Global.
Wawa's refreshing your burger routine with new flavors. Tonight,
He's been a piece of shit. I'm not happy with how he's behaved. He's talked mad shit about me.
Ian doesn't want people who are bigger and more talented than him upstaging him. That's what it is.
Anissa.
Ian's masculinity has been completely removed via Anissa.
Participants of the event.
This is really a lot of weird, tender, soft people. Creator Clash people are real, like, these type of people. You know what I mean?
The event itself.
This is really like the patty cake league.
Why was Froggy allowed in the card in the first place? I don't know anything about this motherfucker at all. So I don't even know anything about him still to this day. I think he did music or something. I think Austinox tried to reach out to him. When he like tweeted about me out of nowhere. Like I said, I have no fucking idea who this guy is, like at all. He went by Krispy Kreme before. Okay, well I don't know what that is either.
Sorry, I lied. This guy, the Froggy Fresh asshole, which you know what? I say asshole, but I'd probably get along with him because he'd look up to me. I'm a 7 foot tall, 300-pound bossy motherfucker that knows a lot of shit, and I like to laugh too. I live in an area that is a perfect mix of urban and rural. I mean, anyone that lives in Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and even New York, and more, probably very much so understand what I'm talking about. I know these guys. I know them. I've been around them when they're drunk and slobbering on girls that are looking at me like, please get him away from me. Like, I know this guy. I know these people. I know their energy. And he's like making fun of retarded people like Trump, you know, like it's like, they're the ones that have mental and situational disabilities, actually. So, you know, the sensitivities, I understand. Anyways, I know this guy. I know him very well. I hate it. It's like redneck, racist, sexist, nasty, people because that's how their parents are. That's how their community is. It's not just a material world that we live in. It's not just material conditions. If you replace or improve those material conditions, that does not change the chain of signifying associations that come from the people who raised you and the environments and cultures that people feel so attached to, when it's really just reinforcing what's familiar to them. Because it hurts to be alienated. It's temporary, though. It's temporary. That's another conversation. You can use that excuse and say it's temporary to then brainwash people to make what was alienating familiar to them, but then it alienates them from the rest of the world. And that works in a good and a bad way. Like when we seek, no less achieved gnosis, it does put us at odds with the rest of the world. The rest of the world wants to vibe and chill out. And I get that there is a lot of merit to that. My favorite things in life are comfort and joy. But, anyways, I know that guy. Sorry. That's
right. I'm sure he was probably fine. I hope he's fine now. I hope he'll continue to be fine. These losers are exactly people who they think they're making fun of. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. There's two different avenues here. There are some who are like, oh, you guys are like ugly and gay or whatever. And then there's a lot of people in these communities that I have seen that are, and I've seen them in the real world too, that are like, no, I'm ugly and gay. And also like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'm disgusting and gross. And for that reason, I'm untouchable. Like they kind of ride with that. It's weird. They're like crusty anarchists. You know what I mean? Like some crusty anarchists will behave like that way where they're like, I'm untouchable because I'm crusty. Fuck you. Yeah, I'm dirty. Showers aren't justifiable hierarchies. These guys do a similar thing, but on the right side. Like not on the anarchist side, but on the right-wing side where they're like, yeah, I fucking don't shower. I'm a miserable incel. What the fuck are you going to do about it? I hate myself.
See, I can't help but to pause it. This is the commentary that I'm here for. I really like Hasan. I like the three streamers. They could quit. They could deviate into something else. I think all three of them really care about the work that they've put into this up to this point. They're trying to say certain things that a lot of people can understand and reciprocate, but not fully, and other reasons. Okay, I don't want to deviate into that too far. But the crusty kind of thing he's talking about, that's that Jordan Peterson shit. That's what that is. It's like you don't understand letting go of pretensions. You know, you don't understand anticipating that people are going to put you down. He probably doesn't. He's a very handsome, well-to-do guy. Like he probably literally doesn't understand that. But you don't understand proactively anticipating somebody like trying to use. Our differences are attractive, okay? Like if it's different from what the group is, it could be very attractive. It could be inviting. Be like, oh, what's that? Are you going to tattoo? Or, you know, let me touch your hair or whatever. Like it's something that attracts you into the group. But really more than that, it's a liability because once you're in that group, that difference is the leverage that they use to alienate you and control you. Maybe not on purpose, but this is how group dynamics work. And Hasan is reinforcing that. I know he's not doing it on purpose. I'm not saying he's evil because of that. I'm not saying his whole political ideology or his life and personhood are all corrupt and I want to sue him because he's a sexual deviant or any weird, reactive, typical streamer shit. I'm just saying that this appeal to like a routine that's more familiar to him, like the priorities that he has internalized, and the people around him might be like, have a little pride, have a little, something. It's like, that's not what pride is. Like being crusty and not giving a fuck. If you're honest and convicted in that, I don't mean just imitating the affect, which is more common than the former. Then, like you're a hero. You're my hero. In fact, that embarrassment is the precursor to confidence. But what you're confident in and how you justify it, demonstrate it, blah, 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 that it's complicated. All of our thoughts, all of our opinions, all of our memories, they're all over the place. But still, we are one mind. How is that possible? That's what people are. So you have to recognize that the complexity that is also there all the time is there all the time. I'll be like, oh, I don't have the attention for that. My head hurts. I just want to blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean that just because I'm exhausting you with this intensity, doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't salient and significant, right? But when we're talking about showering or combing your hair or making sure you appear or smell or talk in a way that doesn't offend other people, fuck that. That is what this whole like post-pandemic leftist culture war nonsense is giving steam to so many people through. It has nothing to do with the political endgame. It has nothing to do with the means or the ends. Nothing. It's preference, and it's bad preference at that. Now, are there things underneath worth analyzing and evaluating? And could they also parallel with maybe depression and anxiety and being at odds with the world? Could it be caused by, a disregard for things that upset, what the status quo is? Yeah, sure. But let's talk about it from that angle. Not this like, hey, we're all put together over here. And these people, I don't know what it is, but they're not put together. And maybe it's like this. And maybe there's an excuse, but still, where we're normal, we don't think that way. No. You're not normal over there. You just have control of the influence. You have control of the conversation. And I'm glad he does, because there's a lot worse people that actually don't care. They don't care. So when I'm critical, I'm not saying like, fuck this guy. Maybe I have before to get reactions, but that didn't happen. And I'm here now. Okay, I'm here. I'm present. These are all my thoughts. I'm not trying to piss anybody off unless they come at me like an asshole. And I bite back harder. So, there are rules. There are rules. There are standards. I will not be inconsistent. I will be kind and as empathetic and present as you are. Or I'd like to be more so. I'd like to set that standard and that example and then flesh it out from there. But this whole like aesthetic stuff is really troubling. And I would suggest that Mr. Piker pick up a copy of Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules, because that's all he's talking about right there. Except he's putting the left-right, neo distinctions on it, and it still ends up in the same place. It ends up right here. I'll tell you all about it next time.
So I'm going to spend every waking moment trying to get you to kill yourself, because that's what I live with on a daily basis. Because I might say, take a shower.
Why? Why?
You know what I mean? Take a shower.
Why?
Seriously.
Don't police the effect.
For like social media boxing.
He doesn't like the culture of Creator Clash, and he mentioned that.
And Chris Ray Gun and all these people, it's like some big ethos worshiping party at these things. And I don't get it. I don't get what all this shit is all about. Like, everybody's there to worship ethos or fucking ethos or like touching ethos, titty or pussy.
To be honest, I thought it was quite the gift to you that we kick you off the card. You have no more obligations.
He said Ray Gun something. It reminded me. There's a guy, a regular on the Majority Report, Ronald Ray Gun. Beautiful name. And that guy's super fucking cool too. But I was thinking you start a band called Ray Gunnomics. Ray Gunnomics. Oh, that'd be so cool. But I don't want to steal that guy's deal.
You can immediately just pivot into boxing for misfits. It's like that's the culture that you want, boxing culture. So go over there and box for them.
Sorry, the first time I watched this, well, it was a little loud there. First time I watched this, none of these commercials happened. Next time
you don't even have to miss that many months of training. You've been training. So hop on one of those cards.
Cut the commercials
but unfortunately, Froggy doesn't want to hop on one of those cards because he thinks the skill level is too high.
Personally, in my opinion, I think the talent at Misfits and Happy Punch is in a different league that is out of my league.
Footwork is amazing. I work hard, I show love, that karma steady growing.
And then right here is down. You stop. I mean, come on. It turns quickly from boxing to assault.
Just fight someone who's weaker than you.
So I'm done with boxing. I can fulfill my current obligations. If for some reason Creator Clash changed their mind, I could fulfill my current obligations. I'm not interested in going further into any other boxing.
It's such a fucking cop-out that you're like, all right, I'm such a victim for getting kicked off the Creator Clash event when I knew what would get me kicked off the Creator Clash event. And now you're like, I don't want to box anymore. It's like, come on. If you look at my text exchange with Froggy, it's very clear that I didn't want.
People apparently were like clipping this and saying that he's like a pussy for this. I don't know.
Off the Creator Clash event. And now you're like, I don't want to box anymore. It's like, come on. If you look at my text exchange.
Hey, dude, I just want to clarify that I'm not mad at you. I just want this event to go well, and part of that is trying to be proactive about things. I just want to find a solution. I really appreciate your friendship, and I don't want to feel like I've upset you. I don't understand what's wrong. Can I not work with Sam Hyde? He's been very nice to me. It's just a tricky situation. I've personally been hurt by a lot of things he's done. If he's your friend, that's totally understandable. I just don't get along with him, and I'm afraid of having him associated with the event. There are others involved with the event that I'm also aren't comfortable with. Yeah, he's my friend. I don't understand. Well, me going to Rhode Island to work with Sam has to do with anyone who's uncomfortable with him. They don't have to see or work with him. I agree. Privately, what you do is absolutely your business, but because we're running a public charity event, we have to be careful about these things because you do represent the event in some ways. I had similar issues last year. I thought, no problem, Harley, you can work with Sam Hyde, but it ended up attracting a bad crowd, and I got harassed online about it a lot.
this totally reminds me of these kind of redneck wannabe urban. They listen to hip hop and they like, they'll pick up on some of the fashion and stuff, the like hood exploitation culture, because it's like status or something. I don't know. People don't know why they do what they do. But a question, side question: are there more people like this Froggy Fresh guy in the world, or are there more people like how you see yourself? I think there are more Froggy Freshes, unfortunately. But the loyalty thing is bizarre. It's bizarre. Like, he's my friend. I've known people like this, and they're very loyal, and that can be a virtue. But it's like, it reminds me of reasoning that like a 8-year-old would have about why they can have the ice cream and the cookie. Like, well, no, that's a bad example because that's self-interested behavior. I don't know. It's like, it's a culture, just like outlaws. There's like outlaws. They're like, you don't rat or snitch. Everybody rats and snitches. Everybody. No, you don't do that. Snitches get stitches and blah, 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 blah. That culture, the expected standards and rules in these cultures are very serious. While people are looking away from the crowd, they always fall apart. Always. But that like bravado of like, my virtue is pure. I'm never inconsistent and I'm always loyal. And like, that doesn't matter. This is an objective function. This function is meant, I think, from what I understand, to produce charity money and also to benefit the content creators and get their names out there and network and all good stuff. But you're objectifying the good stuff. You're not just like just living your life according to your values and blah, 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 that you've never tested or refined or challenged or anything. They're just constant local comparisons. I guarantee this Froggy Fresh guy has some asshole dad or stepdad or uncles or brothers or some other redneck fuckers that he does roofing with. And they're like, yeah, man, you got to stick by your blah, blah, blah. And there's also going to be a shit ton of womanizing nastiness. They're just like, yeah, just suck my dick and blah, 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 blah. They talk that shit all the time. And girls don't like them. Women don't like them. Everyone gets drunk and horny at least once or twice, so maybe they might get lucky. But they'll make that local comparison, be like, yeah, that bitch, she's all about it. Like, it's this domination thing in their minds that if you crack that mind open, it's just full of toxic, redneck bullshit like that. And the sad thing is these people want good connections. They want, it's like, if I'm loyal to them, then they'll be loyal to me. And it's like, it's again like a prison analogy. I'll deal with you doing this to me as long as you do this for me and make it okay. Like, it reduces uncertainty. That's everything we do is to reduce uncertainty, unless you're an artist. And then you create uncertainty on purpose to then resolve it in a specific way. But the reduction of uncertainty explains so much. And the affects of your culture that you've been raised in will also help.
But it was a public display. That's nice of you to give Harley permission to work with Sam Hyde. I didn't know I needed your permission as well. So, look, I think like I said, I fucking, everyone is so passive and so passive aggressive. It's like, you're talking about fucking working out with a Nazi, man. Just fucking, just tell him. The reason why he has to conduct himself in this manner is because no one ever does anything about this, okay? You just get doxxed, you get swatted, you get fucking harassed, you get people coming up to you, you know what I mean?
And then they think they won the argument later. Oh, I told them.
In the unfortunate, unforeseeable circumstance that like this shit gets out there.
Change with Froggy.
But like, that's it. You could just like be like, no, man, it's just, I don't want you working with a fucking dude who's like a pedophile Nazi. That's like a fucking weird and gross thing, which I think is valid. Am I wrong about this? I know a lot of people will go, oh, dude, you probably a Nazi or whatever. But like, this is one instance where like, it's not like this person is hiding that. You know what I mean? They seem to be proud of it. So I don't get why everyone is constantly going, no, that's just comedy. Like, I don't think it's comedy. You know what I mean? This motherfucker's like donated to Nazis. Like, all right, we're done. What is there to do after that point? It's like, oh no, I got to have like the Richard Spencer, the mutated Richard Spencer with heart disease on the board here. Like, we got to have him. We got to have the pedophile guy on. It's just not.
All right, we're on the internet. We're talking about Nazis. You ready? There is a penchant for a propensity an inclination to hyperbolize where people are coming from. If you're racist, you're a Nazi. If you vote conservative, you're a Nazi. If you think marriage is between a man and a woman, you're a Nazi. Now, all those things I mentioned are bad, okay? They're bad. They are what they are, though. They're not this other thing that you want to lump in just to make it easier. It's easier. Like we watched Indiana Jones growing up. It's like the Nazis are bad. You can fight the Nazis. Nazis are great throwaway bosses. They're like, Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe. You need cannon fodder. You need, like there's a Community episode where it's G.I. Joe and Jeff Winger goes into like this trance thing. Anyways, he's in the G.I. Joe world. And they're like, lay down a suppressive fire. He's like, what? We're fighting? They're shooting us? No, we're just laying down a suppressive fire. Like, this is a cartoon. We can't have blood and gore. And then, get him on the other side. And they're like, suppressive fire only. It's fun. Nazis are throwaway bad guys. They're good throwaway bad guys. Also, they look good being shot at. Like, think about Red Skull and the aesthetic, with Captain America. Honestly, America in World War II had a hard-on for Japan. That's who the racism that came out of that was. But Japan was terrible. And the West being the West, which is not, it's like when I say kids on the internet, it has nothing to do with age. The West has nothing. Guess who's to the west of me? The East. It's like literally to the west is Russia. So, it's relative. And calling it East and West is bullshit anyways, because people are people. And China saying, the West needs to stay out of our business. It's just a means for them to keep that nasty human crushing control in effect. It's fucked up. China's fucked up. But they shower and dress nice, and they wake up and they do their routines and be like, why are you upsetting my personal space? Not here. This is the group, never the individual. Our strength comes from the group. Fuck that. That's what they say when they say anti-West. They're not saying about the capitalist, imperialist, military-industrial complex stuff. That's nothing to do with it. That's sprinkles on the shit donut, if anything. It's more like, I don't want you giving our people ideas. That's what it is. End of story. But when it comes to Japan being an ally of the West, and you consider the British Empire and the Opium Wars and the open door policy of all the European unions, were like, we have an open door policy, which means we could just go into China and take what we want and do what we want there. Yeah, you're going to get a Boxer Rebellion. Now, the Boxer Rebellion, we're not here to talk Chinese history, but the rape of Nanjing is some truly, truly horrific stuff. Truly, truly horrific stuff. And the factional civil war, the Kuomintang, Chiang Kai-shek and Mao's, like Hong Kong, which was technically a British colony then or whatever. Hong Kong, if you don't know China, there's like the ocean down below, right? And there's port cities. Hong Kong is a port city, and the Yangtze and the Ganges run through China. But this river comes out, flows through Hong Kong, and they just see one day, there's like bodies, thousands of bodies coming down the river out to the ocean. Like, that's probably not a good sign. This is so when we're talking about Japan, I get and they're like bombing Pearl Harbor to purposely get us into the war. Like America's hard on in World War II, not the Nazis. Now, of course, it ended up being the case. But when Russia talks about saving the world from the Nazis, they are right. They threw so many bodies and they sacrificed so much that they deserve to look forward to Victory Day. Like, that's a part of national identity that should matter. But there are many buts there that have to do with individual ethos, logos and pathos. It's the whole deal, like your personal experience on earth and achieving gnosis. I'm going to keep saying this. Okay? That's what it's about. Anyways, why did I even pause it? Talking about Nazis. It's so easy to throw people in the Nazi category. I got in a huge argument online about Nazis being socialists. Nationalist, socialist, German Workers' Party, or whatever it was called. Nationalist, socialists. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. You say, oh, no, they weren't. They weren't socialists. That's conservative propaganda. No, that's you wanting the argument to be really easy. You just want it to be easy because all the intensity and all the assumptions that you've been fortifying and looking for validation in are the way they are, and you want to validate that. You don't care about what is. Socialism has never, ever been realized. There's no socialist manifesto. Socialism, in fact, is just the precursor to Marxist communism, which I fancy myself a Marxist. But I'm also a Kantian, and I'm also a Spinozian, and Aristotelian, and I'm Platonic AF. You know, like every single individual, they either have... Anyways, that's a more broad philosophical humanist conversation there. When it comes to political prescriptions, especially economic ones, like with socialism, when we think of socialism, you have to differentiate, not because it's the pretentious hipster, purity test thing. In fact, you're not going to get much traction trying to be specific like that. It's because they imply very different things. And in Italy, fascist socialism, which is what it was, you seize the means of control and distribution, and you change the power differentiation, and you employ the people to be in charge. But, it wasn't really like that. It's just that the ideology was explained by those goals. So Germany. Whew, that is a complicated story. And I would love to talk to people about it, but they're like, what? Saying, and I would have expected some people think I'm a Nazi now because I told this guy that, Nazis were socialists. They were nationalist socialists, not socialists like Bernie Sanders, not socialists like AOC, not socialists like Rosa Luxemburg, which I've already named 3 very different schools of thinking. Bernie's national, AOC's local. Rosa Luxemburg she hated women. She didn't think women should be able to vote. We're playing up against the hierarchy and power differentials that are in front of us. And when you talk about World War I and the effects on Germany, then you're starting to kind of get into what they wanted. When you say, we believe in, Goebbels said that. He's like, I believe in proletariat socialism. And then one of my friend's response was, well, he's an infamous liar. That's true. That's true. I'm not saying that their convictions or values were good faith. Fuck no. No, there's enough. No, and I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just saying, I agree. I agree. What do I need to say to qualify that Nazis are bad before we continue this conversation? It's such a cumbersome fucking fuck. But this guy, Sam Hyde, literally did contribute to Stormfront. And his explanation sounds nuanced, and that's what attracts and radicalizes people because they don't care for all this upkeep of the terminally online stuff, which I love and I'm interested in. But I'm explaining the perspective. They don't have time for that. All right, they're men. They got women to fuck. They got shit to do, or whatever they tell themselves is the raison d'être, or however you say that. Sam Hyde qualifies as someone that you can say, whoa, yeah, okay. Glad we had that little talk, my friends.
No, you don't have to. It's weird. They want debates. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, there's no debate. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. It's not about permission. He just called and asked if I was cool with it because he was making content around it. So what are we discussing right now? If I were with Sam Hyde, are you going to prevent me from fighting in the event? He actively makes content about wanting my marriage to end and my wife is evil and hasn't respected my boundaries. I don't feel comfortable having him associated with the event. I'm wondering if you can understand where I'm coming from that. I can understand the way you feel. I'm sorry about that. But you also have to understand that he's my friend. Okay. Well, good luck. Tim Heidegger's had to deal with this Nazi fuck before. It doesn't go away. It's like, yeah, he sent money to Andrew Anglin, dude. Like, every moron pretending it's just an edgy comedy act is either naive or intentionally obfuscating his BS views. Oh, 100%. It's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of both. That's it. It's like, some people don't know. They don't fully understand the depths of this shit. You know what I mean? So they go, look, I don't get it. He's like nice to me. And it's like, okay, who cares? Like when you donate $5,000 to the Daily Stormer, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? That's it. Why the fuck would you?
Yeah. Wow. It's a wrap. Right. Exactly. It's a wrap. But the nuanced explanation and excuse that somebody like Sam Hyde, or in this particular case that Sam Hyde gives, works on people because they don't care about the requirements that they think people are subjected to on the left, which, again, I did my Alex Jones voice here, is not a thing. It's not a thing. People make the local, it could be, it should be, but it's not. It needs to be, but it's not. We need to purge, pun intended, the Leninist taint. Okay? I'm not saying that everything Lenin said was wrong, but I am saying that too. I also am saying that. Ask Karl Radek. He'll tell you. Oh, you can't. Okay. All these revolutions, these proletariat revolutions, are bad for people. They have always been bad for people. And they say, you're just making the conservative argument because look at Norway and Sweden and blah, blah, blah. Those are not... We could talk about that if you want to. I'm not saying that those are bad economies, but I am saying that they were incredibly xenophobic and racist. And also when you talk about capitalists, they get capitalism and they have also understood their culture. So you can't do that without being a nationalist also. And I don't think you're up for that because that directly contradicts the other things that you complain. That, I'm not saying you, I'm saying people, and at least at the very least, the perception of people on the left require you to also agree with. We know that's not true, but when someone makes a nuanced argument like Sam Hyde does to say, well, I think he says something like this. I don't even know if he says I'm not a Nazi, but he says, after I got canceled, which I think he blames the Jews for, apparently, because network executives might happen to be Jewish or people that are Jewish that have survived history by making things their own in various places. That's another story, and it is what it is. It's not the hyperbolic binary that people make it. It's made up of myriad details, and also is explained by many different reasons, none of which conform to the Nazi anti-Semitic tropes. None of it. Not even a little. They mistake that people that are networked and engaged with one another and say, we may share similar virtues, values, and priorities are easier to work with than someone that doesn't, then you're just talking about human nature. And on top of the human nature, there are also intellectual and moral interests that coalesce there. It's a good thing when people, can be seen to be in positions of power that were very recently, an extermination was... There's a lot of history there, and I didn't mean to get into the whole Nazi thing, but we should collectively resolve this, all of it. Because when Sam Hyde says, I got canceled by the Jews, and what happened then? And then I attracted, he said, so now I have a large audience with people that are basically disillusioned with the wokeness. Like Stormfront is disillusioned with wokeness? Okay, now I'm crazy. Shit like that might make me fully crazy. But when I'm trying to break it down, I hope at least someone or someones can say, yeah, I get it. I might disagree, Tim, with you on this, that, or the other. I'm curious about what you'd say to this in response to that. You say you're consistent, then how can you have this opinion? I hope one day. But when it comes to this Nazi shit, how many macho fucking assholes are out there that this works on, because it might not be an ideal answer. It might not be a kind answer. It might not be the one that made their mom proud, but it is an answer that is more personal and deliberate and honest than the majority of status quo appearance conforming, people are afraid to say what they think now. All right. Actually, my mom told me that. I asked her if she thought freedom of speech was under attack. This was right in the middle of the pandemic, talking on an app. And yeah, I love my mama. Talk to my mama. And she said, yeah, but I think people, no, I don't think it's formally under attack or threatened, but I do think that people are afraid to say or don't say what they really think. And I was like, oh, you're so right. But I didn't realize until later she was making the conservative argument. I thought that she meant that people repeat things that they hear, that they imitate things. But what she meant was people are afraid to say what they really mean. Well, there is a problem there, but not the one that the conservatives think. The problem is that the things that people are thinking, if they're afraid to say them, the reasoning should be addressed. And we can't, it's not that the thing is a problem itself. It is, but that's not what our focus should be. Our focus should be on what are the reasons underneath of that? What has made that seem like, as close as this individual can get, a good faith response to a difficult, situation. Honest things that might lose you points with the status quo gain points in this growing cancer in society that we have. We have a reemergence of old school anti-Semitism, literally in the mainstream. It is absurdity doesn't even get it done. What's going on right now is, and so when I try to get all this out on the table, it drives me bonkers when people are like, the vibes, bro, the vibes. No one wants to talk to you because you're mean. I'm like, well, did you listen to what I said, or did you read what I wrote, or are you just responding based on the appearance of what you think you see? That's what I'm talking about. You said the mean stuff. Well, what I said, was it accurate? Does it line up? Does it? I'm not listening. You're so mean. I'm going to tell my friends not to listen. And that's the dynamic online. Look at the traction I've got. Just look around. Look how many views I got on videos. Look how many people follow me. Should I block the cam girls that follow me? Like, I think someone kind of like accused me of being sensational to attract the bots to pump up my followers. I'm not doing that. If I in any way, shape, or form have aspired to having a higher follow number on Twitter, it's only because that number then allows people to feel secure in listening to me. It's to create the result, not to get that result itself. But anyways, since Musk has taken over, I've gotten like 30 cam girl follows, and I'll typically follow back, but I've got to really look. I'd be like, oh, it's Kelly, huh? She's like, I'm Kelly. I'm like, all right, no, Kelly. But I mean, like, I don't know. What do you think? Shit is crazy. It is crazy. And it can be overwhelming. It can feel like a lot. It can feel like it's the right thing to do to ban all assault rifles in response to Texas being our weak link in not having a civil war. But that's not right. Or to call people Nazis that are Trumpists. Well, they're fascists, but they're not Nazis. Do Nazis vote for Trump? Yes. But we need to differentiate. We must differentiate, because these nuances, these like, and they're pseudo nuances that Hyde would present in response to his paying Stormfront, $5,000. It feels honest and direct and unconcerned with the expectations of in the normie circle. We're poor. We need good jobs. We need good purpose. And why are we working shit scut jobs when machines could do this? Why aren't we talking about a UBI? Well, I think there are good reasons we don't get a UBI. And that's a position I've changed my mind on, actually. We should get into this stuff. There's a lot going on that's overwhelming. I get it. I get why people don't want to like live in a world of like disappointing, depressing aggravation. But you also kind of do. So do you just like to perpetuate the tension, or should we work to resolve it and have a sense of accomplishment and feel good and be like, damn, we moved the chains forward. We did that. It didn't take 1,000 people. It didn't take the whole of CNN and JP Morgan to do that. We did that. There's only 12 of us, or there's 500 of us or something. We did that. Look at what the Sex Pistols did for the world. I mean, seriously, look into it. The Murdoch family got their start with propaganda and public manipulation because of the Sex Pistols, the filth and the fury. They went on the Bill Grundy show. They said the F word. There's a story there, and it lit up right? It's 1976, 1977, and they skyrocketed to number one, both album and single. The Queen's Jubilee, God Save the Queen. No future for you. God Save the Queen. She ain't no human being. She made you a moron, a potential H-bomb. He doesn't say H-bomb, he says H-bomb. God Save History! Yeah, there's stuff that has changed history, and it's not always like a shit ton of people. And I'm not saying that the Sex Pistols specifically, they wanted to do this and they did this. I'm saying the effect was because of people with gnosis telling the world exactly what the fuck is going on. That is just to be upset and alienated and angry and wanting to get off your ass and do something. And when there is something to do that looks good, so then it produces this like imitation of like civil rights protests and stuff. It's like, I mean, like, look at the kids standing on the subway in response to the chokehold murder thing. I'm not saying their rage is, I kind of am. It's easier for people to coalesce around what the new left set as a standard. Hippies failed. Hippies were wrong. And listen to them now. Listen to Chomsky and Finkelstein or something like that. Talk about Russia being the good guy. And of course, Russia, who's just little teeny 12 time zones worth of imperial fuck you, is surrounded by NATO. Their NATO encroachment. How would you feel? I'm like, that's bullshit. It's utter and complete total fucking bullshit. The hippies failed and they're still fucking us over. Punk rockers don't hate hippies because they're nice. Punk rockers hate people because they're liars and they're lazy. And I don't mean like, get out there and clean the car, son. I mean, according to your life is only so long. You know, like, unfortunately, we don't really get the gravity of that until it's kind of like too late to capitalize on youth. Youth is wasted on the young. That's true. Thankfully, you know, it's one of the beautiful dynamics of life, this difficult but wonderful thing that it is. We hate people because they're disingenuous, insincere, lazy, and they don't validate or reinforce good things. They validate and reinforce comfortable things. You know how many people talk like, oh, I ate at this restaurant. Oh, you did? How was it? It was good. That's all they talk about. That's it. They say, oh, I tried this new place. But did you try that new place? How was it? It was good. Oh, you know what's banging? You know what's banging? Yo, that new drink is blah, blah, blah. Yo, you tried that new Sprite with cranberry? It's banging. Everyone's just talking about shit they eat and drink. That's it. And who they wish they could fuck, which they know they can't, because the only people that fuck are the ones that can keep secrets. If you keep secrets, you fuck, okay? It doesn't matter if you're ugly or not, all right? Like, there's a lot that needs to be straightened out. People have some gross misapprehensions about what is real and what reasons explain effects. You don't need a whole lot of people to make meaningful change. You need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you need to be deadly fucking serious about what you can expect to come from your actions. And to do that, you can't succeed unless you consider humans as more than just material. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean let's all go take the Eucharist and fucking never jerk off again. No, I'm not saying anything about that. Like, if you're an evangelical or you're an Eastern Orthodox church person or you're anything, that may be what you need to achieve gnosis, okay? Knowledge of God. That doesn't mean a subservience to an institution. There is not one true church on the face of the earth. Not one. I doubt there ever has been. There have been partially true things, but I don't know. I went wide on that. The point is, and that's a good example there. Well, you know, I don't know if Moses was a real person or not, but whoever wrote the first 5 books that ended up being in the Bible, you know, was pretty influential. Jesus, we're pretty sure, did live, and other things. And in fact, when you look at the wise men in the nativity scene, one of them is very, very dark skinned. Let me deviate. In China, Chinese Christians assert that the wise men didn't just come from anywhere. They came from China, which puts them in the story and allows them to feel ownership. This isn't just some Western shit, you know, like But yeah, I'm going really wide. You don't need a lot of people to meaningfully change the world. You just need to understand why, and if you're feeling upset, then you're halfway there, but you're not all the way there. You're dangerously even further if that's all you think you need. Yeah, there are problems, but let's be able to describe what they really are. Why are they caused? How are they perpetuated? I don't mean to endlessly analyze, and then we'll form a committee. And after we form the committee, we'll establish a commission. And after we establish a commission, we'll have a chamber of analysis that will... No. But we also don't go for the get the trains running on time either. There is a middle ground, and that middle ground is not the third way. It's just the majority. It's the consensus of what's best for people. And you get them to agree with it after you've made the case. But the case has not been made. Vote Democrat? There's no case to make for that. To not let Trump get elected again, there's a case for that. But we did not have to stop there. I think if Build Back Better went through, a lot of us would be more appreciative and supportive of Biden. Not happy as like this ideal is exactly what he's the best leader. He's a fucking terrible leader. That guy, Ron Klain or whatever, his first advisor, I liked him. Okay. I don't know a lot of his history, so sorry if he's like, oh, you like that guy, he's the most neoliberal, blah, blah. I don't think he is. I think he understood that it was important to hold the center in the beginning. All right. But shit, that's a different conversation. What are we looking at? 10:23. All right. Well, let's.
You want your charity event to be associated with that? Totally valid. Totally reasonable. Okay. So, he actively makes content. I can understand the way you feel. I'm sorry about that. Like, he's just trying to fucking. Dude. You know what the worst part is? Other than like the Nazi shit, which is pretty bad in and of itself, it's just hacky. Like, it's just so fucking lame and hacky. Okay. I'll speak on terms that his fan base will maybe understand. It's like, lol, I'm stalking my fucking, my prey online. Like, that's funny, man. Good job.
Patients are more than their disease. That's why for over 100 years, Novo Nordisk has focused on treatments to defeat.
You know what I mean? I'm really bothered by it. Oh my God. It's just like, okay, like move on to the next bit if you're doing a bit. You know what I mean? Are you a fucking comedian or are you like a gross weirdo? Seems like you're more of a gross weirdo that's hiding behind comedy. And
Why? Why,
It's nothing.
Hasan? It looks like
But also,
everyone left us here, my friend.
It's just hacky as shit.
It's just me and you right now. I'm thinking maybe we'll take a break. No one's commenting. No one's liked, So, whatever. I really appreciate that people showed up, checked me out. I'm sorry about all the commercials. Sorry that it's a lot of information all at the same time. But I promise that if anyone had the conviction and the focus to just work through some of this with me, you will not regret that you did. And I think that there's even more utility than just what's involved personally for us in our emotional states of mind and whatnot. Hasan says, oh, you're stalking your prey online. He's making an exaggeration of character based off his experience that does not conform to what his interests are. It's not representative of his preference. And he thinks it's tacky. It's so hacky. Yeah, but so fucking what? It is. Why? Why is it? You can't just be like, that's messed up. People are mean. Oh, you're a crusty, dirty weirdo. Why? If you're such a materialist Marxist, then let's look at the causal factors. Why? All right. So I'll leave you with that. I really, really appreciate anyone who came in and, hung out with me for a little bit. I might pop back in. I might pop back in and kind of set up one of those Destiny Milo debates. There's a lot more in this Froggy Fresh video, but I think for Hasan's purposes, I think we got that done. I like Hasan. He's an intelligent and charming, very handsome man. He's worked very hard. I'm sure he's had to deal with a lot of heartache and difficulty and metaphysical strain. The shit rends at your soul. I can't say in a few seconds why, but I understand the process. It's like I said in the beginning, you have to be able to look at what's there without always letting it into the part that affects you. But you can't discount the things that seem inconsistent because you don't know immediately how to process it. And that's where punditry, especially live streaming punditry, I would hope to see a better a more functional process, you know, like people taking what they did and learning from that, and then doing the good things that they did. You know, I'm saying a lot of words for something very, very little here. You know, keeping the good stuff, improving on the other. You know, like you're moving it forward so that what does work gets to more people, and it allows them access to the benefits of that much, much more quickly. It builds a base to collectivize around, to consider, what and how we can do to make a difference in the things that are needing to be made different. I like Hasan. I wouldn't spend a lot of hours watching his content. It's very social. It's very and it's too normie. It's too normie. And this time on Earth right now, particularly in the States, as it relates to like socialism and all of the political, economic, as Clinton says, it's the economy, stupid. Like that's his thing, he said, right? He's right though. Economy, history, politics, we are at a head right now that is going to crash against much harder and difficult things than most people. I think we can feel it, but it's so easy to say, oh, these people have been calling for the end of days forever. Well, like I said about the culture war, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but it looks like we're headed for it. I like Hasan. I'm done talking shit about him now. He's too normie for me, but I love what he does. I hope he keeps it up. I hope he makes his uncle proud, and I hope that you enjoyed or got something out of this stay with me. I appreciate you. I'm incredibly fucking frustrated and angered by the state of things, by how limited and predictable people are, and that their defense is, well, vibes or whatever. Like, read what I wrote, listen to what I said, think about it, not something else. If you know what I'm talking about, if you're already familiar with what I'm trying to illustrate, then meet me ahead of where I am. It would feel great to have somebody say, I get it. You're a little all over the place, but I get it. And somebody that could say, why? Why is he producing the effect that he's producing? Is it because he's crazy? Or is it because there are certain situational and circumstantial things that are coalescing, and people that are tuned in and actually paying attention, no less empathetic, experienced, and aware, are rightfully affected by? This shit is real, okay? I'm a big, strong, fucking angry guy that has stared death in the face many times. That does not mean I'm going to go ride motocross and be like, yo, bitches, what the fuck? That is not anywhere near what that means. But I can deal with those fucking people too. Very well, very easily. You don't need to be the strongest guy who fucks the most women to be the alpha. You just need to see things more clearly and understand how to make it all better.